It's been a while since I've posted an episode or interviewed any people, and that's because of my recent move from South Korea to Spokane, Washington. I've read a few books in the last few months, gathered some new ideas, and been presented with a new opportunity at work that has influenced the way I behave within my organization and with people. After a couple months of getting settled in and waiting for my things to arrive from Korea, I'm feeling established. I've met a decent amount of people here in Spokane, and I'm looking forward to the amount of people I'll be able to talk with. For my first guest here at Fairchild Air Force Base, I spoke to Senior Master Sergeant Brandon Geeslin, who goes by Goose. Goose is a member of the security forces and leads 180 people every day. I met Goose through the Air Power Leadership Academy here at Fairchild in September of this year. He is the one person in the classroom that nobody seems to mind when he starts to share a lengthy story. He holds the attention with each person every time he begins to talk. I ask him to retell some of my favorite stories he shared with the class. We later talk about the natural law. The natural law is an influential concept that suggests people only take action or change their behaviors when they can see exactly how it is in their best interest to do so. Guiding people to help them see how their actions or a behavior change is required is a difficult task to accomplish, but we try to figure out how to do it. This conversation is about 3 hours in length, and we talk about a cluster of different topics. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Now enjoy the story of Goose. Episode number, I think you're number 15. 15. I got
right.
Senior Master Sergeant Brandon Geeslin. He's going to be number one person I've done here at Fairchild. Met him through Air Power Leadership Academy. He volunteered. He always speaks a lot. All the students always get excited to hear you talking, and you catch yourself talking, and you're like, oh, I got to shut the fuck up. Yeah. So here we are on a Sunday. It's halftime on football, but this is more important, so we're doing this. And, if you would, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Brandon Geeslin. Most people call me Goose. Been in the Air Force now 20 years. Originally from Texas. Been all over the world, seen a lot of cool shit, and I'm pretty humbled that you asked me to be here, man.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad. Yeah. Like I said, at Air Power Leadership Academy, everyone always gets excited for you to talk. It's weird, whenever I'm talking, I always think I need to shut up because no one really cares what I'm thinking or saying. But when you talk, everyone just stares and listens for the 3 to 15 minutes that you go. People are excited about it.
I catch myself. I have to shut up half the time. I was like, hey, I need to stop.
Yeah. Every time you start talking, I know that's how it's going to end. And I'm going to shut the fuck up now every time.
Every single time.
So traveling, you've been, 18 years?
20.
20, okay.
Yeah, just got into 20 years last January. So
man.
Coming up on 21.
Dang. 21.
Yeah.
You've been all over the world. What's your favorite country to visit? Can't pick America.
Oh crap. Japan was awesome. I was only there for a couple weeks.
Kadena or mainland?
Mainland.
Okay.
But honestly, Korea was amazing. Kunsan was just. That was, I think, a throwback of probably what the Air Force was 20 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
As a guy who just came from Kunsan this year, I could see that.
Yeah.
Definitely agree with it. Yeah, those friendships and stuff are it's different. It's like a deployment, but a year long.
Exactly. Like some of the best friends of my life came from that place. Specifically, Dick Swank. He's out at Tyndall right now still. He stayed there. A guy named Chief Tim Pitt. He's a ACC. He's a cop out of Langley. He and I are going to the desert together, though, for a year.
In April?
In April, yeah. But there's just so many that were there. Had probably one of the best commanders I've ever served with, a guy named Brian Copper. He passed away about a year ago. But he just 1,000 miles an hour on fire all the time. Made time to talk to every single person and get to know who they were. That guy was just, but that was Korea in a nutshell. Like, I mean, everybody there, that was just the way that they interacted with each other.
What do you think it was that made that commander? You said Brian, besides getting to know everybody. Was that his name, Brian?
Yeah, Brian Copper.
Brian Copper. What was it he did that made him that special, that memorable, besides just talking to everybody?
For me, as a senior NCO in particular there, he gave you his clear intent. You knew what you were going to expect. You knew what you were getting after. But at the same time, he never had a commander's call. Not once.
Not one.
He went out and visited people.
Okay.
he said, I'm not going to call everybody in and waste their time. I'm going to go up when they're already here and talk to them. Korea, that's easy to do. I mean, nobody else has any other real responsibilities outside of work.
Yeah.
But then he went there. All the senior NCOs and all the CGOs, we'd meet together every Friday at 1500 in his office.
Every Friday.
Every Friday. And
mandatory?
It was kind of like a mini staff meeting, but the staff meeting was the fridge is open. Let's sit down and let's talk. And rank still played, obviously, but it was everybody could speak their minds and everybody could tell you what was going on and what we were trying to get after, and kind of a recap of the week and what's coming up the next week. But then, like I said, he knew everybody's story. He knew the reason that who they were, why they were the way they were, basically. Yeah, he was a guy I looked up to. Didn't always agree with everything he did. I mean, most senior NCOs don't always agree with their commander at all times, but still at the same time, I feel privileged to have known him and to have worked for him. But then we had another guy there, Chief Master Sergeant Rob DeGennaro. If I could tell you about a command team that was in sync, lockstep, those two and a first sergeant named Emily Mandridge. She's a senior master sergeant, first sergeant now. She's either at Langley or Dover. I can't remember which now. Those three together, along with the rest of the senior NCOs and CGOs in the unit, like that was a phenomenal time to be in the 8th. Like, that was just a good time.
That sounds like a perfect combination. You got a commander you like, a chief that you like, and you're in Korea.
Yep.
That idea of like having a meeting every week where you just get to say what you're thinking with you said an open fridge. I'm guessing there was beverages similar to this. Yeah, and that really lowers, like, creates the environment to just say what you need and what you want and get everyone on the same page. Yeah, that's something I think would be really beneficial. But outside of Korea, it's hard to get people to want to give up their Friday every time at 3:00.
Yeah, and he did it at 3:00, and by 1600, get out, go home, go relax, go call the families, do whatever. That was but that hour was blocked off, and we knew that we would talk about business, business, football. We talk about anything, but I mean, mostly it was centered around business.
Yeah, it would be nice to know every week I can say, this is what I'm having a problem with, who knows how to fix it. Someone's going to have that fix action.
Exactly, and that's kind of what we did. And the great part about that area or that time frame is, like you said, getting people to do that outside of a Korea or outside of a deployed environment is kind of difficult because we all hold other responsibilities outside of work. And there you're kind of isolated to that outside of whenever you can talk to your families and things of that nature. But that was a great time.
Yeah, here's a doozy of a question. So in Korea, it's really nice to drink and like have that because everyone could just walk home. You don't have to worry about getting home safely.
Yep.
I think that's what makes those 3:00 meeting easier to do because you didn't have to worry about the way home.
Yeah.
How could we implement things like that? Get people stateside closer and willing to do stuff. Do you have any idea how? Because I'd love to do it, but I can't think of a way personally.
So we kind of do it already. In the 92nd now, what we do is usually Fridays at 1500 Heritage Time. Everybody relax, pull your ID cards. We're all going to sit down. We're going to talk about something.
Is it like pull your ID cards?
Yeah, stop working.
Okay.
1500, we're all going to get together, and we're going to talk about something. You don't have to have a beverage of any choice or anything. You can sit there and just relax. But we're going to talk about a topic, whatever that is. Specifically, last year, this time, it was Veterans Day. Okay. What does Veterans Day mean to you? What's it mean to you? And we just went around the room and that's where you start learning more and more about people. And the more that you know who they are, what drives them, what motivates them, what they hold dear, I mean, then you're going to be able to lead better. But the same thing is they have to know that about you. They can't follow somebody that's just a rank and a name.
Yeah.
Like, they have to put the information behind the person. They have to know who you are.
So what do you do to get people to know who you are? And before you answer that, for Brian Copper, I'm going to drink another 1 to 7.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me know when you need another one, too.
Okay. The way All right. So the way that I get people to know me, in particular, is, and I stole this. Rob DeGennaro gave it to me. So, the quick story about Rob. He showed up to Geeslin when I was there. I got thrown into training. I was working security forces training. I was an NCOIC there with a small group of guys. Chance Telford, Hayden Granger, solid individuals. But we were drowning in the amount of work that we had to do. Mm-hmm. And nobody really gave us a reprieve. So as soon as I took over, I talked to them. I was like, hey, man, what do you need? Give me all the programs you run. Give me the hours behind them, everything else, all the analytics and variables behind them. And I went up and I talked to the senior that was retiring. No names there. And I said, hey, man, this is what I need. Uh-huh. And he said, okay, done. Hire 3 people right now. I was like, all right. So basically we went out and we picked 3 people to step in.
You got to pick whoever you wanted.
Yep. And then Rob came in. He was the senior that came in afterwards. Oddly enough, I had a hard time right before he showed up. Walked in to take a PT test. Got a 40-inch waist. At the time that, hey, that's a no-go. Yep. Then max out push-ups, sit-ups at my run. And blew all that out of the water, but still was a big guy. Mm-hmm. And so I had to go see the commander. And I walked out of the commander's office in full service dress, and the new senior master sergeant standing there. And I'm a tech sergeant at the time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, great. That's a real great way to meet your new boss.
Yeah.
And to his credit, he walked in and he said, hey, what's going on there? And they said, well, he just failed his PT test, this and that. And he looked at, he's like, you going to get rid of him? He said, hell no. And he said, good, thank you. And Rob pulled me aside a couple weeks afterwards and gave me some of the most candid feedback I had ever had in my career. And just everything that he told me, I was wow, somebody actually got to know me, gives a shit, stuff like this. And then, so he put me in charge of operations. Like I was the NCOIC of operations after that for him as a superintendent of operations. And we ended up building probably the best operational security forces section I had seen in the Air Force at the time.
That's interesting because failing a PT test is very, very stressful. Mm-hmm. And for him to keep you in that position, what feedback did Robert?
He looked at me. Yeah, he looked at me and he said, hey, man, everything's in line. He goes, you got to control this part. Mm-hmm. I was like, Roger, so done. And 42 days to the day, I went in and I smoked that fucker. So it's like,
with a 28-inch waist.
I was like, never going to. Well, I somehow went from a 40 to a 34 in 42 days. And, well, so needless to say, some of the people at the FAC looked at me afterwards and they're just like, yeah, we think you got measured wrong the first time. And I was like, okay, neither here nor there, though. That was a damn good wake-up call for me because never had a problem since and never will again. That will not happen.
Yeah.
But the way that these guys get to know me, back to Rob and kind of how we started off there, Rob started a deal so General Welsh made a speech to the Air Force Academy years ago. And it was basically every airman has a story. Mm-hmm. Get to know them, stuff like that. And Rob implemented that, and just squadron-wide. It's simple. All we call it is 3 slides. I do it with every new kid that comes into the unit now. They give me 3 slides. Hey, who are you? Where do you come from? Who do you love? What do you love? And then where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it's nothing more than scratching the surface. That's all it's doing. Mm-hmm. But if I can get them to know, if I know where they come from, what's their background before they ever walked into the Air Force? What do they hold dear in their lives? Who do they hold dear in their lives? And then where do they see themselves in 5 years? So hopefully all of a sudden a new A1C coming out of tech school is now thinking about goals. Mm-hmm. 5 years from now, because I sure as hell wasn't when I came out of tech school. I was thinking about what's tomorrow bringing, not what 5 years from now is.
Will people like me here? That's what I was worried about.
Same thing. And so now, but the way that we do it is either I'll tie it up or I'll lead it off with mine. I show mine.
To every new person.
Every single one of them. Hey, this is where I'm from. This is who I am. This is who I love and what I love. And this is where I see myself in 5 years. And I share some of my failings and some of my successes and then my expectations for them.
Yeah.
And I ask them what their expectations are of me.
So Rob was doing that for his, how many people was he leading? 400?
No, so at Geeslin, he had about 160 there. And right now I have 180 that I'm doing it with.
So you do that with 180 people?
Yep.
Here at Fairchild?
Yep.
Can so you know all 180 of them? Like when you see them around, you know their names at least?
I know their names.
That's good.
Know their names. Most of them I know, married, kids, background a little bit, stuff like that. But all that is a jumping off point for when I get to go out and see my guys.
Yeah.
Hey, said you love the Cowboys. I do too. So let's talk a little bit. And it just opens up that line of dialogue. And more and more and more. And I've stole this before too. But relationships develop trust.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can get them to trust me and understand that I have their best interests at heart and the best interests of the unit at heart, and same with them, that I understand that they're not going out willfully doing anything wrong and stuff. What they're doing is within the boundaries of what I ask them to do. That develops influence.
Yep.
And that influence is huge, and that's leadership.
Yeah, there's this thing called, what is it called? The nature's law. Like you can't motivate or get people to do anything unless they see why it'll benefit them. Like their behaviors, changing them, making them do things. They're not going to do it unless they know how it helps them. And when I first read that, I was like, I don't do that. And then I was thinking about all my actions, and almost all of them, there's something in it for me. Like I might help someone out so that they trust me and have a better life, but I do want them to contribute to the Air Force better and pay that forward, or even just work for me while I am their boss. Yeah. So it is kind of selfish to think that in that nature's law way, but that is what it's all about. So do you think this 3-slide thing that Rob created could work for anyone in a leadership position?
I know it's gone. I was just down in Senior NCO Academy with a bunch of guys.
Okay.
And some of them have carried that to their units, not security forces units, but they're carrying it to other units, and it's worked. And I know we carried it to Korea. I carried it here, and then other people are doing the same across the Air Force.
Yeah.
And like I said, all it is just scratching that surface, getting the start.
Mm-hmm.
Like instead of, because days of when I initially joined the Air Force, when I walked in, I didn't see the senior. That just didn't happen. You didn't see the chief. You didn't see the people in those leadership roles unless it was probably negative.
Yep.
And now, hey, you understand the people that are making decisions, this is who they are. And this is what's driving them to do what they have to do.
So when you send yours to them and they send you theirs back, do you have a conversation with them after, or is that like basically
we sit in a room. They
Okay.
present it. So I present mine to them, and they present it to me. So Joe gets a couple younger kids just used to talking. And it's an easy subject for them because 9 times out of 10, they know the subject matter very well.
Yep.
But then, and then they can ask me questions about my background, about history, about any of this stuff. And I do the same with them. I'm like, all right. And it's all pictures, the whole thing. So, like, all right, go back to that one. What's that picture there?
Yeah.
Who is that? Who are they in your life? And how does that play? How does that make you a person?
Yep.
Yeah.
It started off really good. That's what this is about. Where initially this thing started out with like trying to figure out what good leaders do and what we could replicate to continue doing good. And sometimes these episodes are just me and the other person drinking alcohol and talking about what we want to. And I'm surprised people listen to those. But yeah, this is starting off good. So 20 years and 10 months in.
Yep.
What's some like cool operations or assignments that you've been a part of that you're allowed to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, 2003, I ended up, 2003, I ended up in the Middle East for a little while. Didn't expect to go. I was originally slotted to go to an assignment in South America, deployment in South America, which was a bunch of guys sitting around just having a blast. And then I ended up, from what I thought, the short end of the stick, going to going to the Middle East, and I was like, oh, this is going to be horrible. Turned out to be, but one of the best experiences of my life. A guy named Tony Roop took the team, and I was a young A1C about to be a senior airman.
What was Tony Roop?
Tony Roop was a tech at the time, and but yeah, we went there. We got to do a bunch of cool stuff. Ended up in Iraq for a little bit. Then came back. Worked in QC at Whiteman for a long time in a nuclear unit, and had a blast there.
Really?
Yeah.
And Kansas City every night, or what?
Huh?
Did you go to Kansas City every night?
No. So what? Sedalia is where I live, so it was a 70-mile drive to Kansas City. Yeah.
Not too bad.
Not too bad, but there wasn't a whole lot out at Whiteman. No. And then got kicked over to England. Deployed a couple more times out of there. And then ended up in Camp Hatter again, or Nasiriyah. Had a blast there. Ford deployed to a little fob out of there for a while. Let me see. So out of 20 years, one of the craziest and most rewarding experiences was Hurricane Michael. So we're at Tyndall, and right after that thing, rebuilding the base that nobody knew if it was going to stay open or what was going to happen there. That was pretty awesome, awe-inspiring, because out of the 250-man unit there, 8 of us stayed behind, and we were just piecing it together as we went. And we had an RFF out, and we had 180 people from 32 different bases, TFI, that showed up.
What's TFI?
Total Force Initiative. So reservist, guard, active, they all showed up at the drop of a hat, and they started showing up within days of each other.
Yeah.
And putting together that team with nobody who had any idea what they were really stepping into from every different walk of life, and going, all right, guys, how you doing? I'm going to lead this thing, and let's run together. Yeah. And everybody's like, all right. And I was like, hey, all we got to know is each other, and then figure out how we get through the rest.
That was about 5 years ago, right? 4 or 5 years ago?
October 10th, 2018.
Okay. Do you think, I guess that was a little over 3. We'll just say 5, even though it was like 3 and some change. Mm-hmm. Do you think at that time your goal was to talk about how it worked 5 years later on some guy's podcast in his basement? Was that your 5-year goal at the time? Because you did it in 3.
Honestly, at that time, just coming out of Korea, everything else, I thought Tyndall was going to be my last base. I thought I was going to hang it up there, and that time frame, that 7 months that I was at that installation, that was it. That just kind of reinvigorated me for a little bit, and I've been riding that wave since.
Yeah, I love doing things and tasks that nobody's ever done before, and no one knows how to do it, because you just get to come up with an idea and it works, or it fails miserably, but really only you know it and the people you want to tell that to. Like, oh, I tried this, it didn't work. Those are like the best ones. Fortunately, that was like a lot of money and stuff involved with what you were doing. I've never done anything on that level, but I would be excited to try.
Honestly, I don't think any of us had ever done anything on that level. It was just, we found ourselves in a unique circumstance, a unique situation. I said, a guy named Dick Swank, he was with me in Kunsan. He and I PCS together to Tyndall. And we show up, and that's what happened. And we looked at each other every day going, all right, no rules. Let's do this.
So when you were leading that team, or in the moment when you found out you were going to have to, were you excited, or were you like, oh, I'm going to fuck this up? This sucks.
A lot of both.
A lot of both?
A lot of both, because I was pretty excited for the opportunity. Again, I could drive 3 blocks and see what used to be my house, and I was like, oh, man, that's a weird situation to be in. But then now I turned, I looked at that, and I was like, I can't wallow in this, so I've got 90-some-odd people that are depending on me to show them, or at least give them the right guidance and tools to equip them to do the job that I've asked them to. And that was kind of the thing that I was looking at all the time. I was like, and I let some of me taking care of myself slip a lot during that time, because I worked straight for about 3.5 months. Like, I didn't take a day off. And then finally I started taking some days off. And then right toward the end, I was like, all right, I got to get out of here because my kids were up in Seattle. And I was like, I got to get someplace close to where I can see them.
So you only did 7 months at Tyndall, then you had to come up here?
Yeah, I humanitarianed up here.
Okay.
So they, out of that 250-man unit that I was with, I saw outside of the 8 guys that stayed, the rest of them I saw for maybe 3 weeks, and then they all disappeared. I don't know, like half of them PCS'd humanitarianed out because the Air Force opened up and said, hey, if you need to leave here, you can. Okay. And so most of them left. Yeah. And then by the time I was leaving, some of them were coming back to the unit, but I was already gone at that point.
Did you want to leave? I mean, of course you wanted to be close to the family and the kids, but
yeah.
You did?
No, honestly, I didn't. Yeah. Because I looked at the commander at the time. Very, very good guy. A guy named Josh Frizzell. I looked at him at the time, and I was like, hey, boss, I hate to do this, but is it okay if I put in to humanitarian out of here? And he said, absolutely. Yeah. He said, you gave him more than most, and most of us had. He said, there's no objections whatsoever. He said, I'll miss you, man. And good luck.
That's a good response.
I was like, thank you, sir. Yeah. And then I found myself at Fairchild, and it's been a little rocky at first, but then it's been fun.
Yeah, then some dude asked you to be a part of Air Power Leadership Academy. You just found your wings.
That's a blast, man.
I don't know if I already told you, but you're going to be in the next class. We started it. Me and Erica decided January 26th, so it ends March 30th.
All right.
So unless you got some TDYs, you're a part of it.
No, I'm
One
in,
more
man.
class where you
I'm
pick
in.
your replacement. Yeah,
definitely.
Hold on to you and Erica for sure.
Definitely.
Man, I keep forgetting to say his last name. Rob DeJaneiro. DeJaneiro.
Yeah, we used to call him the Godfather.
Okay, I can remember that. The Godfather.
He just retired in March of this year.
Okay.
And what was it? There's 9 of us that I know of from anywhere else in the Air Force. We all drove or flew there to be there for his retirement. Yeah.
That's awesome.
There's a bunch of old guys from Geeslin that were there together.
I bet that meant a lot to him, too, like just have these guys willing to fly out to see him end his career. So I'm glad you told me he retired, because whenever someone hasn't retired, I feel obligated to put their rank in front of Rob, Godfather, DeJaneiro. Like, that's what I feel like obligated to say. So when I was retired, I don't feel that pressure anymore. But that was cool that he gave you that feedback before that moment when you led that team. Feedback is something that I've always thought was important, or it doesn't hurt, but with egos and just growing up, I always avoided it. It was just difficult for me to tell people what I think they could be doing better, because I never thought I was very good myself. So I was like, who am I to tell people how to do something better? So your opinion on feedback has it always been easy for you to give? I've seen you giving it to students left and right at our class.
It's not always easy. I mean, so positive feedback is easy every time.
Oh yeah,
you just got to find yourself. The deal with that, though, is you got to make time to do it, because a lot of us don't. Hey, man, you're doing a great job with that. And that's all it takes sometimes. Slap on the back, handshake, whatever it is. Hey, you're doing awesome, phenomenal there. But negative feedback can be difficult. Yeah. And no, it has not always been easy. Even still today, it's not easy. I've got kind of I'm not saying he works for me, because he doesn't. He is my equal in every sense of the word, to me at least. Master Sergeant Kyle Billings in my shop right now. And
I met him. He came up to the tower.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. And so I bounce everything I do off of Kyle.
And that probably means a lot to Kyle.
Honestly, because he's got different ways of thinking about things that might be outside of mine, and he is not hesitant to tell me, hey, boss, I don't think so. This is a better way. And cool, I trust him, and I listen to him, because he's very intelligent, and he doesn't have a malice bone in his body. So his feedback to me when I ask for it is amazing, and then now I don't have to ask. Now he just willfully gives me his feedback, and I'm thank you, and it means a lot. Sometimes, hey, sorry, not going that way, and he understands it, but same. But to give somebody feedback, hey, you're doing a job. You're doing the job in the way I asked you not to do it, or a way that's outside of certain things, stuff that's difficult to do, but you got to do it, and it has to be direct. You can't you can't tiptoe around it.
Yeah.
Because if somebody's doing something that's not in the commander's intent, not within the effect that we're looking for, you have to direct them, and you have to course correct quickly, because if you let that go on for too long, it's going to be hard to get that train back on the tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So you sit there and say, hey, listen, this is what I need you to get after here. And the way that I do it now, I think a little bit is I bring them in and I say, hey, all right, did I not explain myself? Because the first thing I look at is me. Did I not give them the clear intent? Did I not give them the guidance, the instructions, whatever it is? Did I not give that to you in the right way? Did you understand it fully?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Okay, cool. Now I need you to get back on track with it. If you don't, I'm going to find somebody that will.
I like how you start it with, did I mess up? Is this my fault? You know, it definitely makes them more comfortable with saying no.
I've learned that the hard way.
By just saying, you fucked this up, you did this, you.
Yeah. It was, in particular, this was Geeslin, before I went to Coonson, and one of my guys, I was working investigations at the time. I looked at him and I said, hey, man, you're fucking this up pretty bad. I said, this is what I told you to do. This is what I told you to do, and I don't understand how you're not getting it. And he looked at me and he goes, what do you mean? Mm-hmm. He goes, this is how you told me to do it. I went, son of a bitch, you're right.
I had to tell you to do that.
Fuck, man. I can't. So then I looked at him and I said, okay, let me reiterate. And let me readjust. And when I did and showed him, I explained it to him and then I showed him. Never had a problem again. Mm-hmm. And I looked at him, I said, afterwards, I said, hey, man, did I not show you in a way that made sense? And he said, sir, you just said to do something and you expected that I knew how. I said, yeah, I did. But our career is multifaceted with a bunch of different things into it. So I expected that he had done that before, and he never had. Yep. And I was like, yep, you're right. Maybe I could have helped you out there. So now the way I look at it first is there something that I did not do? Mm-hmm. Is there something that I didn't show you? Is there some way that I could have given you? Did I train, equip you to do this job? And if I didn't, then let me figure that piece out first. Yeah. And then let me correct myself, and then we'll go into what I can help you do. But feedback, all in all, man, it has to be there. If you roll without that for the longest time, I remember being a part of a unit, being a part of a squad in particular. We had some shitbags, I mean, like everybody does. Yeah. And then we had some pretty high performers. Me at the time, I was probably middle of the road. I could have went either way, depending on what day it was.
I feel that way about myself most days.
And but I saw this, and I'm sitting there, and the squad lead never corrected the turds, and never told the other people that were high performers you're doing a great job. So I'm looking at it going, well, they're all the same. Yeah. So guess what happened? They all kind of leveled out to being, well, they're not getting corrected. I can do this. And these guys, they pulled up a little bit just based off of the people that we were working with. Mm-hmm. And then after that, we figured out the boss finally pulled us all together, and he said, hey, listen, you are phenomenal. Y'all are crap. Yeah. And we're like,
is this the same boss or a new boss?
Same boss. Okay. And this was 4 months into a...
Just decided I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
Better late than never.
There was a catalyst to it, but pulled us all in, told us all this, and then we're just like, oh, okay. And that one piece of feedback finally caused the rest of them that were just kind of milling about, living their lives, to pull up and actually be part of the team. Yeah. And then the other guys that were performing, that were high-level performers, that weren't getting any of that feedback, finally they got some of that, and they started performing again. Yep. And then they started grabbing the guys that didn't know what they were doing and showing them how. And then the guys that were middle of the road went, oh, fuck, I better get on board, man. It's time. Yeah. And but if you don't get feedback, if you don't, like, hey, this will work, this won't work. You're doing great here. You need to fucking correct this here.
Yeah.
You know,
You can
stuff
cuss on
like
here.
that. Okay. But so if you don't get that, then people will flounder.
Yeah.
And I mean, because it's just you're in your own internal sense of drive that's going to keep you going at that point. Because, hey, what are my left and right limits? Am I meeting your intent? I'm doing what the Air Force is asking of me, but could I be doing more? Should I be doing less? You know, just that. Because I've had some guys that just do so much that I'm like, all right, man, you need to peel back a little bit. It's time for you to hang on. And then just like, well, you know, you always heard the age-old adage, I'm going to give my top performers more to do. And then we're eventually going to fucking burn them out.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to kill them. So why don't we pull that back a little bit? And then I've got 180 people right now, but all in all, I have 6 that are my direct subordinates.
Okay.
I took those 6 and I said, all right, cool. And I said, you're doing amazing stuff, but I'm going to take this from you and give it to them. I need you to show them how to do it.
Yep.
And I'm like, why? You know, because I'm doing a great job with it. Exactly. That's why. Yeah. Because you're going to grow them. And then guess what? I'm going to find you something else.
Yep.
And I'm going to keep you moving because once you get comfortable, then you're going to stop the growth.
Yeah, I know a lot of books like tell us to do shit like that, but it takes a lot of effort to do it. So be paying attention, have that awareness to do it. There's this thing that John Maxwell says, and I've been doing it a lot lately. I read it like 3 years ago because Air Force teaches us you can't play favorites, and we can't. But John Maxwell says it in multiple books that you have to find your top 20% of your people, and essentially he says play favorites for them, do everything for them, because then they're going to find their 20% and do everything for them, and eventually everyone gets taken care of because there's just everyone's doing their 20% to where everyone gets important. Also, a lot of John Maxwell books say you just got to cut people when they suck, which we can't do that. So maybe it doesn't add up, but it does make it easier for me to like care about my top 20%, and they do take care of everyone else below them.
Very true. I mean, it's pretty easy for me. Right now, I know exactly who my top performers are. They're
name one.
Kyle Billings.
Okay, keep going, and we'll talk about
easily.
Kyle.
And it's not anything I have ever done. It's just maybe that I've given him, maybe I've empowered him to the level that he should be.
I think if I had a senior that treats me like an equal and just like asks my opinions on things, let me make decisions, I would feel like I'm a senior. It would just help me.
Yeah,
that would be great.
And God willing, he'll be a senior this coming year because he is wholeheartedly performing at that level. But the way that I look at it now, Korea in particular. So I got to Korea. I worked flight for all of about 2-3 weeks, and De Janeiro was the chief. I got put in a different section, and I get put back in the section, and they had 2 very high performers, but the rest of the section was not. So in that time frame, I looked at them and I said, those 2 that were on fire when they got here started to just level out because they noticed that nobody else was performing to their level, and there was no reason to do it. The one thing that if I can say that, like when we talked about egos and stuff like this, I do have one when it comes to this. I think I can build a pretty good team.
Okay.
I'm never good. I'm never the best in the room, but I can build people around me and to a team that can accomplish a mission pretty quickly. Specifically the ones in Korea. As soon as I took over, there was a couple changeovers that were happening, and I put Nick Rosales, Samantha Williams, Evan Romero, Ryan Rowe, another Master Sergeant that just graduated the First Sergeant Academy. He's on his way down to Tyndall, and phenomenal leader. And same thing there. He was a tech. I was a master at the time, and he and I would have a lot of closed-door conversations. Not closed doors to where we were keeping everybody out, but just he and I to where I'm like, hey, man, what track do you think we should go on? Are we heading in the right direction? Are we going to get this done? Because he was my 2IC. I needed to make sure that if he was on the same page as I was and that we were in lockstep together.
2IC, what is that?
Second in command, or second in charge. We had a lieutenant, too, phenomenal individual. But we built that team, and that team was so high performing that it got to the point where I couldn't identify a top 20%.
Yeah, that'd be a nice problem to have.
Yeah, they were all there. Malik Smith was just, when it came to certain things, all of these individuals were just amazing. And it wasn't at any real direction that I gave them. It was, hey, you have the ability to fail. I'm not going to destroy you for it. Do it within reason. And then these are the things I want to get after. Figure out how we get after them. And that was it. And that was the direction.
Is that the strategy to build a team? Just have goals listed and go for them? Get to know your people, look at goals and go for them? That's what I picked up from it. How do we build a great team? You built one. How do we replicate it?
Well, crap, I wish I could tell you. So, I mean, the first thing is what I do in all my sections is we have family lunch. Like every Wednesday, everybody sits down. We just get to know each other a little bit
all
more.
180?
No.
Oh.
No, just the ones that work directly for me. But no, we sit down, and I mean, any of those 180 are invited at any point. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
And we've grabbed random people along the way. Like, come on, let's go lunch. I'm buying today. Stuff like that. And then we'll just go sit down and we'll talk to each other. And it's just BSing, getting to know each other and stuff like that. But then business-wise is I expect you to operate at a certain level and commensurate with your rank. And if you're not operating at that level or higher, I'm going to exhaust all efforts to get you to that level. And if I cannot, then you are no longer in that position. And I've explained that to most of my people when they're put into certain positions or when I hire them or through the hiring process. But it's pretty laid out there right in the beginning, so they know what to expect and what they're walking into. So almost kind of like a performance feedback right in the very beginning. But it works so far. I mean, there's always been one or two that you just can't get them to where they need to be or to operate in the right way.
Yeah.
But the great part is the rest of the team, if they're moving together in a certain direction, usually the ones that are having a struggle or a hard time, they will grab them along the way and get them right and get them into the position to where they're successful.
Yeah. It's easy. Well, not easy. That's a one way to look at it, but like being that example, because if you start taking shortcuts or not holding yourself to that standard of perfection, they're not going to either. They're going to see you. If you take one shortcut, they're taking 2 to 3 each. And then when that's 180 people, that's 500 shortcuts that the base just took.
Yep.
And that's the hardest part. But that's also what keeps me from cheating, from taking shortcuts, is knowing if I do this and I get caught, they're all going to do it. And I could take one shortcut and they're going to talk about it for years. Like they're just like, he didn't do this. But it holds you accountable. The
amazing thing that I got told long ago is that airmen see everything. They see everything that you do.
Yep.
Especially if you're supposed to be one of the leaders. Like they're watching and they take notes. So that one time that you're nobody's watching, I can do that's not the time. And it's never the time. If there's a right way to do things, do it the right way.
Yep.
And a lot of my guys, they wonder why I harp on certain things. Young kids at the gates. Why is it important? Well, it's pretty important because if you're not doing your job, nobody else in the world is.
Yeah.
And they said, what do you mean? It was like, you are the guardians. Like, you're the defenders. Like, if you aren't doing your job, the rest of the people can't because you're the ones keeping them safe.
Yeah.
And just when it goes back to like what you were talking about, give them the why. Not necessarily the why that benefits them. It does benefit them because it's transactional. Like, hey, if I don't do this, I will get in trouble. If I do this, I stay out of trouble. But at the same time, why am I doing this? Because everybody behind me depends on me to do what I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
That kind of got into a cop realm.
Yeah. We had it on my board behind you on getting into the cop world.
Oh, all right.
So something I actually asked Senior Master Sergeant Craig French, who was the shirt at Kunsan First Security Forces, and I also asked David Schoen this, Chief Schoen, motivating cops. It's if you asked what's the hardest job to probably motivate people, it's going to be that job if you asked that. And so doing that, I think, takes a lot of effort, a lot of continuous like thought behind, or like getting to know your people so that they do give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
That security force is the hardest. It's got to be. There's no science behind this or no research that I've seen. It's got to be the hardest job to motivate people in that career field. How do you do it?
Well, that's a really good question. So it goes the cop career field in general already, though. You look at the massive dynamics that we have, from law enforcement officers to basically small unit infantry to everything in between. We have snipers, we have hostage negotiators, jump school guys, jump guys, ravens, all this stuff. And then you have all the way down to your PO1 securities and stuff like that. How do you take a group of those type of people that, in particular here, out of the 230 here, 180 worked for me, and those 180, out of that 180, I have guys that are traffic accident, military police investigators, criminal investigators. I've gotten quite a few kids that are air assault jump, that have been in specialized units and stuff like that. So how do you take that group of people, put them together to get after a common task, especially when that task seems mundane?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And the way that, and this isn't the end all be all.
I'm excited for the answer.
One of the ways I do it is I look at them every day and I said, no other career out there straps body armor to go to work.
That's true.
I mean, if you look at it, like I said, most people, they lay out what they're going to wear before they have to go to work. And for most of us, it's a uniform and stuff like that. I don't wear body armor anymore very often. But all these guys do every day. And I said, there's something to that.
Yeah.
I said, do you understand why? I said, well, to protect us. Yeah, because if somebody's going to do something bad, you're expected to step in between them and the others. You're expected to guard our people. And I said, that's one of the most amazing responsibilities any human can ever ask of another, is you have to be willing to step in front of bullets to protect the other ones. They can't. They have to generate the aircraft. They have to get the air power off the ground. And you are the ones that are going to fight off the bad guys to get that to happen. And if you don't do it, they can't. They can't do their jobs. So I said, you are a force multiplier. You are what starts everything. You're the ignition for the car. If you're not there, the rest of it doesn't happen. And if you look at it, I mean, cops are every single Air Force base across the world, they're cops.
Yeah.
And they're doing the same job almost every place that they're at. No matter what form that takes, it is defending the rest of us. And every day, like, I sit there and I'll sit on my front porch because I can see the base from my front porch. Oh, nice. And I sit there and I wonder what my guys are up to, what if they're thinking that day, if they're out active doing stuff, and they are. I mean, they prove me right every time. And there's some phenomenal individuals there. And you can't motivate all of them.
Yeah.
But if I can walk into a guard mount room, talk to 20 of them, I can get 5 of them that day to buy in, to get after it. The others are going to follow because they want to be a part of it. I mean, I equate a lot of things in my head to sports because played ball all my life, rugby afterwards, and just a whole bunch of different things.
When you say ball, is that football, baseball?
Football, baseball. No, I got cut from the basketball team in 7th grade when people didn't get cut. I was bad. But no.
You weren't over 6 foot yet.
No, man, I was bad at it. But the way I look at it is the coach, when they would come in and talk, they had an innate ability to pull everybody in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seemed like to me. And after talking to a lot of guys afterwards, no, it wasn't everybody, but they would get 5 or 6 to just, that became their driving force right there, right then. And the rest of us would pick up with that, or you would pick them up.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to be a part of that team. And that's kind of hopefully how it works.
Yeah, hopefully. I definitely, from talking to you, I've never done this, but next time I go through the gate, next couple times I do it, as long as it's not the same person, I don't want to say it to the same person twice, I'll just tell them, hey, I know I couldn't do my job if you weren't up here doing this. I'll just say that to them. I'm sure it'll mean something to them. And if other people listening also did that to your security force member on the gate, I bet to that member it means a lot. Like, I know whenever I bring them food, like when I'm going on a chow run and come back, they're always like super excited. And I kind of wonder, like, this is like a 1,200 calorie meal. I know I'm not the only one doing this. This can't be good for them. But I don't always do it, but I do it often, and it always makes their day. They get excited.
Yeah, those guys, and I mean, we put our youngest out there at the time. And honestly, to me, that's the most important job on the base. Because the guys sitting up at that gate, like I said, youngest usually in the career field in the Air Force a lot of times, and if they're not doing their job, the rest of it stops. And sure enough, they're out there in the heat, the rain, the cold, all of it. And a lot of times you come through the gate, and I still wonder how they have a smile on their face.
Yeah.
And then the other times they don't. I sit there and talk when I can, but I don't want to hold up their traffic because they know then they're going to get pissed at me.
Yeah.
Hey, sir, move the hell out of the way so I can keep doing my job. But at the same time, I hope they realize how important their job is and what they do. And I've got a bunch of guys beating that drum and across the Air Force. And some of them, too, hopefully.
Yeah.
They do the same.
So here's something. You say you care about your guys and you do things for them. One of my favorite stories that you shared at ALA that I'm going to ask you to repeat for anyone listening is someone got a DUI. You went to commander's office, stuck up for them, and then something happened a few days later or a week later. Let me just get you to repeat that story. It's one of my favorites.
So I'm trying to remember exactly which one, but I think I know. Yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about.
You were a repeat offender.
One of my guys got a DUI, and I vividly. I walked in the commander's office and I said, "Hey, sir, this is a one-time occurrence. This will never happen again. You know, this and that." And for cops, that's a cardinal sin. That sleeping on post, like those two are the cardinal sins.
DUI and sleeping on post.
Yeah. To me, that's my experience throughout my career. Is those ones will get you every time. And usually the playbook is Article 15, hard bust. That's that. Well, so
keep talking.
I went in there, and sorry about that. I went in there, and this kid, again, numbered Air Force winner shortly there before, everything else like that. And I walked in and said, "Hey, sir, please, just don't. Not this one. I can turn him around. This will never happen again." And he goes, "All right, Sergeant Geeslin, you putting your name on him?" "Yes, sir, I am." "Okay, perfect."
You're a master at this time, right?
That time I was, yep.
Okay.
And shortly thereafter, it was, I think, 9 or 10 days. I get a phone call. "Hey, same individual's got another DUI." I was like, "Oh, great." And this is 9 or 10 days after the commander action. I had to walk back into the commander's office, and I looked at him and I said, "Yep, that was my mistake." And he said, "No." He goes, "You're putting your name on him. I understand it." And he goes, "You understand what I have to do?" I was like, "Yes, sir, I do." And he goes, "What do you want to do?" I was like, "I've given him what I can. It's time he seeks life elsewhere." And he's like, "Okay." But yeah, that was, but sticking up for him, it was one of those things that I look back on and I was wondering, should I have done that?
Would you have done it again?
Yes, wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Done it since. Had a kid go AWOL. I think I told you about this one in the last year. And he was. I mean, dead to rights AWOL. He was gone. And some other people wanted other things to happen. And do you want to save him or do you want to get rid of him?
Yeah.
He said, "We can save him." So we have. And he just got back from a TDY this last week. He'll be deploying next April. He's doing well.
That's good.
But he knew what he was doing, so that was that was a problem that I had, though. It was willful disobedience.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, he willfully broke the law. So I looked at the commander. I was like, do everything you can, but keep him in. And he did, and it was a wake up call the kid needed.
How long was he away for? Like a shift, or was it like a full week?
No, it was like 3 days.
Oh.
He was gone 3 days.
That's the amount of
Yeah,
time.
I had to call his dad to get him to come home, or to get him to come back.
That shows that you a lot of effort you put in, though, to get a hold of his dad, to call his dad, to get him to talk to the dude, get him back here, get him to stay in, get him to take a deployment. You did a lot of work there.
Yeah, well, my biggest concern at the very beginning was the phone call that I got. It was 10 o'clock at night. Hey, sir, this is what's going on. We can't find him. I was like, all right, we have to find him now. It was like, simple thing is I can't have a guy out there that should have shown up to work that we have no idea where he is, and we're not going to exhaust everything in the world to find him. Just certain things were going through my head. I was like, I have to know this kid's okay first. That's the first thing. And sure enough, nobody. So I drove into work, pulled his VRED, and then found out who his next of his emergency contacts were, started calling them, got a hold of his father. Hey, sir, this is who I am. This is what's going on. Da-da-da-da-da. So, yes, sir. And I said, I need you to get a hold of him. When's the last time you talked to him? He goes, a couple hours ago. Okay, perfect. So I know he's okay as of a couple hours ago. Get him on the phone. He does. And I said, have him call me now. So the kid calls, and he's scared, and he knows. And he drove away thinking he was only going to be gone for a little bit. Then he's like, oh, crap, I'm late. And he just stayed away because he didn't know what was coming on the back end. So I called his dad, and I were in contact. And I talked to his dad last time about 2 weeks ago. Just told him, hey, your son's deploying. He's been doing great stuff and everything else like that. But I talked to him, and when I talked to his dad to get him to come back, I said, hey, understand, he will have to pay for this. There is, I mean, every action has a reaction or a consequence, and there will be consequences for his actions. But I can tell you what I'm going to try to do. And I said, I can't guarantee you anything, though. I'm not the guy that makes the decisions. I just advise sometimes. And it's up to, and thank God I got a pretty amazing commander right now, because
keep getting them.
Yeah.
Keep getting a good one.
This one is, he's one of those few, though, that are out there that I'd work for this guy any day of the week. He has an ability, the empathy is always there.
What's this? I mean, you could say, I feel like it's all positive. What's this one's name?
Yeah, Slater. So,
okay.
Yeah, he's a cop commander right now, Major Brian Slater. He's, again, so, yeah, best commanders I've had, Craig Alton, Colonel Craig Alton retired, Lieutenant Colonel Brian Copper, Major Brian Slater, Lieutenant Colonel Brian Fitzpatrick. Jesus, they're all named Brian.
I'm going to name my firstborn Brian.
And then Josh Frizzell. I mean, like, those are the best commanders out there that I've worked for. But Slater is very, very about a just culture. He's about trying to bring people in, not push them away. And the idea is, everybody says that we're a family and stuff like that. I think he truly believes it. And he's put that out time and time again in the unit. And the unit has gone, in the last year and a half, amazing directions.
Yeah, what's actions are Major Slater doing to make, like, to have given that impression to you that he cares? It's a family. Because that's something I want to replicate.
I've seen him, the way that he interacts with people, no matter how small how small an incident is, or from my perspective, how trivial I think something is. Sometimes he takes time out of his day to talk to an individual directly. And he metaphorically wraps his arms around him and the whole unit's like, hey, I'm here. We're here to help. We're here to make this better for you and to help you through whatever you're going through. And he does that. And it's not just hollow words with him. I've watched him do it. And I was like, that's a guy I want to work for.
Yeah.
Every day. And he's pretty amazing with it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool to be open about caring about people and then showing that you actually care about people.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to say, and I think we're all saying it now because we're told to say it. Like, we're being told to say that. But showing it doesn't always happen.
Yeah. Actually, putting your money where your mouth is different. And the other one, I mean, Chief Vale, like Jake is... He's a scary-looking individual.
You know what? So the student that I'm not gonna say the student's name, but the one that talked to him, I was talking to him last week, and he said that Chief Vale, very scary-looking guy,
6'5", just a mountain, and a big scar on his face, and he looks very intimidating.
Yeah, he said he didn't want to ask about the scar, but he said that's all he could think about.
He is intimidating, but he has that natural way too of bringing people in, of talking to them, and he has direct, frank conversation. You talk about feedback, he does it, and I've tried to emulate it, like, because he does it. He's like, hey, this is the way you need to move.
Yeah.
Oh, beer, sorry. But he does it, and he does it very, very well, and he cares.
Yeah.
And I mean, he cares to a point though, like, he's still the chief, so he still has a job to do. And he's a hammer when he needs to be, but he's not the guy that walks around like everything's a nail. Like, I mean, he plays that fine balance, and he does it very, very well. And I think that's just who he is as a person. Like, he's just very smart, very articulate, and he's very analytical with things too. He doesn't react off of emotion, and that works very well.
So is that what you think he does better than you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You said you wanted to replicate him, but...
Yeah. I mean, he...
You got to get a scar on your face, too.
I've got a couple other places. But, no, he... like, I'll sit back now, like, because I walk in there, and I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. Just... And he knows what I'm asking for. I'm asking for his advice on something. And I'll say, hey, this is what's going on. And then he'll just give me an outside perspective. And I'm like, holy shit, I should have thought of that. Yeah. Why... like... To me, it seems easy once he says it, but...
Yeah, when you can ask someone that's removed from the situation what they would do, they'll very often give you these things that were so obvious that you just never thought of. It happens to me all the time.
Exactly.
So I always reach out to people that aren't stationed here.
Yeah. I got a couple of those just around the Air Force that I'm like, hey, man, let me bounce this off of you real quick. And they're like, no, that doesn't pass the smell test. And I was like, all right, cool.
Yep.
But no, Vale, like I said, he's just got that analytical way to sit back for just a minute and analyze the other things that are going on too. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, what? Why didn't I do that? So I picked it up and started running with it. And it's working.
Yeah. So we're bringing up feedback again. And Chief, I've actually never seen the dude or met the dude, but he'll be at the graduation. I think he registered, so I'll meet him then. But so I went on about feedback. I went on this trip to Iceland in 2019, 2020. I think 2020, January 2020, right before COVID.
Yeah.
And I went there to Iceland by myself. I just wanted to drive around Iceland by myself.
Yeah.
It's like a cool little goal or idea I had, and I was like, I'm going to go do this. So I took 10 days of leave, and I went to go do that. And right before I left, Chief Harper, great dude, was like, hey, bring this book with you. It's called The Last Professor, or The Last Lecture. That's what it's called. And it's this book that this guy who had cancer, he had like 6 months left to live. He like had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old and a wife. And so he just wants to like write a book about like his life or what he thinks is important. He's like 35 years old, and he just writes a book. And there was a lot in that book that was like really cool. Like this is this dude's last. He's a very educated dude. He's lived life, and he's like, what's most important? He writes a book for his kids so they can read it when they're old enough. And one of the things was just about feedback. It was like 2 pages, but that's what stuck out the most. As I was driving around Iceland, I would just read a couple chapters every night. And what he said is like, when people stop giving you feedback, when people stop telling you what's wrong, it's because they've given up on you or they just don't care about you anymore. And that's what like helped me realize like I need to tell people when they're messing up, even if it's uncomfortable, because they need to know. I was a master at the time. I had just put master on, and I was just like, this is like really important. Like, because that is usually when I don't tell people, it's because I just don't care enough about them. And I realized like I need to stop doing that. So that's what like when feedback is so important, or why it's so important to me, because I realized it's because I care about them that I'm doing this. I don't want them to keep fucking up. I don't want the Air Force to suck because I was too scared of what they'd think of me if I didn't tell them what I actually thought.
And I think that's a good way to be about it too, because if I look at an individual now and I say, I'm going to let that action continue, or I'm not going to tell you you're doing great. Like, we're all training replacements.
Yep.
Because all of our days are numbered. So every last one of us has an expiration date. And we're done. And we walk away from this thing. How do we want to leave it? How do we want to leave it, and who do we want to leave it with? Because the only thing that lives on in the Air Force about any of us is legacy, like who we taught and what we taught them,
Mm-hmm.
good or bad, because people will remember the bad things people did, but they'll never remember them.
Yep.
They'll remember the good things people did, and they'll remember who they were and why they showed them that thing.
That's everything you said is like literally like my thoughts on when I wanted to start this, because I wanted to like capture what's the good shit and like how do we replicate that so we can keep doing it.
Yeah.
And what's the bad shit so we can avoid that.
And dude, there's so much bad.
It would be boring to just talk about the bad.
But there's so much good too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and just letting people know though where, hey, how do I want you to continue on? Like, I give a damn about you, and I give a damn about the Air Force, because this is what I've given my life to.
Yep.
But,
same.
But do I keep letting you do this just because it's easy or it's simple, or do I show you the right way?
Yep.
And I mean, but that kind of, I think it kind of ties into what Colin Powell said long ago. He said
a lot of good things. Which one are you about to reference?
In particular, when people stop bringing you their problems. And I mean, I think that's a great mark of a leader, or to at least somebody. It kind of goes hand in hand. Like, hey, I'm giving feedback to the people.
It's exactly opposite of that. Yeah.
But now, do they give a damn about me enough, or do they think I care about them enough to bring me their problems so I can help one way or another? And I think that's huge. I've had some colleagues that I've seen that they don't know what's going on inside of their sections, because they are so far removed from it that their people don't tell them.
Mm-hmm. Just to finish that Colin Powell quote, it's exactly like when people stop coming to you with their problems, it's because they've given up on you.
Or they think you don't care.
That's it, yeah. Giving up, or they don't care.
Yeah,
that's it.
And either way is a failure in leadership.
Yes.
Yep. And I mean, God, his 13 rules of leadership are amazing. And
I did not hear Colin Powell's 13 rules of leadership. Is that one of the 13?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So go read his book. His 13 rules of leadership are in there. And they're just phenomenal. And they're nothing more than you're sitting there reading it going, wow, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I mean, like I keep reading these books by a bunch of different guys out there, and I'm sitting there going, that's not rocket science. Like, I just haven't been doing that.
Yeah, but like talking about leadership is such a rare thing, so you can read it in a book and then you can feel validated and, oh, I've always felt that way. I just didn't word it that well. Now I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it's the same. And I mean, because like Jocko's book, all of those.
Extreme Ownership?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that one.
Extreme Ownership, I mean, is probably one of the better books that I've read out there. Mattis's book, Call Sign Chaos, is just phenomenal. And he talks about that he never had, or a lot of times he didn't have the best idea. He had a second lieutenant when he was a general showing him, hey, sir, what about this? And they're like, holy crap, that's perfect. Let's do that.
Better.
Like, and that's where I think, too, if we foster that culture in our own people of saying, hey, I have an idea. And I think I'm kind of moving off onto something else here for a second. But if we foster a culture to where we have people that, I'm not the smartest by any means, but I am the guy sitting there making a lot of decisions. Yep. But if I have a young airman that's sitting there and he goes, hey, man, this would be a lot better way to do it. And if I foster the culture to where he's confident enough, or she is confident enough to come up and say, hey, sir, what about this?
Yeah.
And to bring it up through their chain, whatever the hell it happens to be, but it can get to the right people, I'm going to try it. Like, fuck, why not?
Yeah.
Unless it breaks a law or an AFI, we're going.
Yeah.
Proceed till apprehended. Like, I mean, and because those people are going to have the ideas that change the Air Force.
Is Kyle Billings the same way? Does he have that same attitude with people?
To a degree.
Okay.
So Kyle's Kyle's
Kyle is his like co-office guy, right?
A great counterbalance to me sometimes, because I might be all like, yeah, this is great, and Kyle's like, hold on. And he never does it in front of anybody. He's just like, hey, man, this
Perfect.
might be why it doesn't work. I was like, shit, you're right.
Yeah.
You make a lot of sense. Like this, that I understand now. Yeah.
So what you said about letting airmen influence you or come up with ideas, it's such great, because there's another quote, I don't know who says it, to be influential, you have to be influenced. So like when these little airmen think that they can get the senior master sergeant's ear and like make changes, they're just like so much more driven to like come up with ideas and think of things and like listen to you because you listen to them.
Yeah.
It's a simple concept that I didn't realize till I read it in a book. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
I just remember being that kid that was sitting somewhere, sitting on a fence post or sitting literally guarding a fence out in the middle of Missouri going, man, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Yeah, there's gotta be.
And sure enough, there was, but just who was willing to put their mouth in.
What was the better idea?
Sensors are a better idea than...
Or like I watch a bunch of cameras that look at 18 fences.
It's different, but I mean, it's it's a novel idea.
Yeah.
Like kind of like what we just did with this last one. And that wasn't my idea. That was another tech sergeant did. Tech Sergeant Kent, he came up with this, and he's like, hey, sir.
There's a tall building over there.
Yeah, he came up with a small piece of it, and then we just sat around and we grenaded the whole thing and came up with a brand new concept. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's try it. And we went to the boss, and he's like, yep, trying it. And I was like, all right, cool. He goes, we got to go brief the wing commander. And I was like, Kent, come on. And he goes, what? And I was
Kent got to do it?
Yeah, I was
That's
like,
awesome.
yeah, you're briefing, bro. Like, it's the way it's going to happen. This is your idea, and I'm all behind it, and it's a novel way to approach this.
The confidence and, like, empowerment that a tech sergeant had to, like, get your buy and the commander's buy and then go brief the wing commander. I bet Ken probably never said it, but that was probably pretty cool and something he told his loved ones, and he's just proud of it.
I hope so. I mean, because, like, shit. It's like 5 weeks ago we talked about empowerment, and I think that's one of the most amazing things we can do if we do it right. And I don't mean that we just say, hey, go do this. Like that's not necessarily empowerment, but if we say, hey, this is an idea. Okay. Now show me your idea. All right, I like that one. Let's try it. Mm-hmm. Instead of sitting there saying no all the time, why don't we figure out how to help to get to that way of yes? Or if there's not a way of yes, we just figure out, okay, can we mold this idea into something else to make it work, but it's still yours? Because if we don't do that, then we end up losing a lot of people. I've seen a lot of great individuals get out who we could have used. They would have benefited the Air Force tremendously. They're out doing great things on the outside. I mean, and that's the way the Air Force works. But still, I think if we could have grabbed them early on and said, hey, show us your ideas. Let's figure out how to make something work. Yeah. Then maybe we would have kept them in the long term.
Yeah, I've had this idea that it would never work. But you know how the NFL has franchise tags? I think hockey does it too. If I could like once you hit a certain rank, chief or senior, you get a franchise tag. And you literally get to like give it to an airman and be like, this is my franchise tag. Yep. This person gets $5,000 if they re-enlist. Like if you had that just to keep in those, because not only would it be like super flattering that you picked them out of 180 people, but once you re-enlist once, you're probably staying in. Like that's the math. So I feel like giving these chiefs who can literally pick their top picks for just $5,000, you know, it makes a lot of sense. And it would be a pretty sweet award. Like, I am this motherfucker's franchise tag.
That would have been bad.
Yes. I come up with a lot of ideas when I'm drinking, and it'll solve all the Air Force problems.
I do the same.
Yeah. Like that's when I was doing this in Korea, it started like why I wanted to do it. There's a lot of reasons why I started. But me and my friend Derek Pace, we would drink and like solve all the Air Force problems. We're like, oh, we need to like write these down because we've solved them all. But then we forget about them. Yeah. So I was like, if we do this, people will hear it and it'll catch on. Yep. So that's one, franchise tags.
I like it.
We got to start it.
I like it.
And let me get a franchise tag too, just because it's my idea.
Oddly enough, they're doing something like that. Not the franchise tag, but they're doing a
re-enlistment bonus.
No, senior NCOA. They sat a bunch of people down. They're like, hey, how do you bring people into the fold quickly? And that was one of the questions. And I'm thinking, I'm sitting around looking, and I was like, oh, this is not like any other PME I'd ever been to. I was like, this is weird. And it seems like we're trying to legitimately solve some high-level Air Force issues.
Which made you want to try to solve them.
And I'm sitting there going, yeah. And I was like, holy crap, why can't all PME be like this? Like, because that to me was just like, it was worth it, because we were trying to solve those problems, but it was little pieces that we all could take back to our units. And we did. I mean, a lot of people did. Like how to get somebody, like how to onboard somebody, how to bring them into the unit the right way, and how to make them feel appreciated before they even got there.
Yeah.
Like just little things like that. But the thing that we lacked was follow through. Like, all right, cool. We got to that point. They showed up. Cool. Hey, shake your hand. Welcome to this place. See you later.
Yeah.
And what's the next step? Like, how do we continue to follow through? And I mean, like, stuff like that, like to where we can just sit there and go, I want you to stay in this for the long term. And when I meet with all these young kids that come out and they give me their 5-year goals or where they see themselves in 5 years, a lot of them tell me, hey, I'm not going to be in the military. That's great. Serve honorably for the time that you're here. Mm-hmm. And then let me help you set yourself up on the outside, however that is. You show me how I can help you, though. Don't let me dictate it to you. I want you to show me so that I can sit there and maybe I can think of some other things. But, too, that shows me that you've put some effort into it to think about your end goal and how to get there.
Yeah, you should tell them you've seen 500 people get out. Like, you have ideas of what those 500 did.
Yeah.
You can help them.
Yeah, and there's a couple out there, though, they're just like, yeah, I want to get out and I want to do this. It's like, okay. Sounds like a great idea. Now, what's your plan? It's like, those are two different things.
Yeah.
When you're stepping outside the military, have a plan, not an idea. Actually outline what it's going to take to get to your idea. Or otherwise, you're going to get out and flounder. I ran into another, one of my guys. I will take one of those, please. Thank you,
I could
sir.
sense the lightness over there.
But I
actually tried to grab a Coors Light earlier. Sorry to cut you off. And I grabbed this Moscow Mule thing. And it is one of the most disgusting drinks I've ever had. And I'm halfway through it, so I'm just not going to drink it anymore. I'm over it.
Well, I ran into one of my old troops, though. God, it was 3 months ago. And he was just walking in the gas station. Got a big beard now and everything else, and he saw me and he goes, "Hey, sir!" And I turned and I looked and I was kind of taken aback for a minute because I didn't recognize him. I was like, "Who are you?"
A homeless guy.
And then I was like, "Oh crap! All right, hey buddy, how's it going? You know, this and that. Are you a lineman?" Because that's what he wanted to get out and do.
Like be an NFL lineman? Or
No.
He took
work on power lines.
Oh, okay.
He goes, "No." I was like, "Why not?" He said, "Well, school was pretty booked up." Like, I thought we ran through that before you got out. And he said, "Yeah, but, you know, he didn't do a few things." And I was like, "Okay, what'd you do?" "Well, worked for UPS for a little while, did this for a little while, this for a little while." Like, he bounced around between 3 or 4 different jobs. And I was like, "Oh, crap, man." I was like, "What's next?" He goes, "I don't know." Like, "You want to work with your hands?" "Yeah." "Okay, cool. Let's look at something." And
he had already gotten out, and you're still helping him.
Mm-hmm. And it was just, "Hey, what do you want to do?" And he's like, "I want to work with my hands." And said, "All right, cool. You ever thought about being a carpenter?" I was like, "They make money." And I said, "And you don't have to be anything other than framing carpenter. It's pretty easy to get a part of and stuff like that." And I was like, "Get an apprenticeship with any construction company." And he's like, "Huh." I was like, "Yeah, here, let me make a few phone calls real quick." And called a few people and, "Here, call this guy tomorrow." He's like, "Okay, thanks." And he sent me a text a couple of weeks later, and he's just like, "Hey, sir, I got a job." He goes, "I'm loving this." And I was like, "Cool." Last I heard from him, but I hope he's still doing well.
Yeah, so there's two things there. Not only did, like, you listen to this dude and got him what he wanted, and you were able to, like, even if he didn't take it, you probably would have felt good. But then that he texted you a week, 2 weeks later, and he told you he got a job. I know that there's a lot of personal satisfaction in that. That you could have just said, "All right, man, see you later." You could have seen him at the gas station. "Oh, I hope you're doing well." Walked out, but you didn't. You took a little bit of time to talk to the dude, had some contact, because that's what happens in the Air Force when you're in it for 20 years, and you're able to help this dude. Like, he's on a whole nother path now. You know,
And I hope it's working. I will tell you that when you get those random phone calls or those emails years later, hey, sir, thanks for this and this. And it might have been, like I said, it might have been trivial to me, but it meant the world to them or something like that. Those are pretty amazing.
Yep. Every time staff results, tech results, master results come out and people send me a message before I can then message them, always just like, man, like you made this. The list hasn't came out and you're telling me, like you're reaching out.
Yeah.
Shit always means a lot.
Yeah.
I had one person call me and were like, why haven't you congratulated me yet? I'm like, what are you talking about? And then they had the master list, 3 weeks before it came out. And I'm like, well, I haven't seen it yet. But it just meant so good to me that like, that was what they were thinking. Like, I got to thank this guy it made me feel really good.
So have you been to all the places on there? On your chalkboard?
We're back from peeing. Most of them. So I wrote all those down when I forgot his name. I think Dyer, Chief Master Sergeant Dyer was the command chief at Spangalum when I got there.
Yeah.
And during those in processing things where you have to attend, I didn't want to go, but I went, and he was like, "Look, who here's lived overseas before?" And a couple people rose their hand. He's like, "What about not counting short tour?" So like everyone dropped their hand. I was like, "Oh, none of us have been here." And I was like, so I was engaged. And he's like looking at me, and he's like, "Make a list right now. Write 10 countries you want to go to before you leave here. Everyone, write it. I'm not going to continue till you write it." And I was like, okay. And so I started writing countries that I thought were in Europe. I was writing them down. I had like Cape Verde in there, which is in Africa. I was just like writing things down. And he's like, "All right, don't leave here without going to all 10 of those." And I was like, I bet nobody here listens to him and does that. I'm going to.
Yeah.
So then my girlfriend at the time actually made that cool board. And then so I wrote down the 10, and then I had so many more I wanted to go to. And then I also just started writing ones on the side that I went to that weren't on my original 10.
Yeah.
And I did not get to all of them. COVID happened, so it kind of put a damper on a lot of them. But I did hit most of them. I would say like probably 80% of those.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, just every weekend, you just fuck it, let's go somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to go to Dublin during St. Paddy's Day.
Oh, what year? I was too.
That was 2011.
Okay. Yeah. No.
And then I was in Dublin when I was 17 playing a rugby tournament.
So you must have been pretty good. Was it like a high school team?
Yeah, it was a high school. Well, so none of the high schools in Texas actually had rugby teams. Yeah. So it was kind of like just a sponsored our own rugby team.
Yeah.
And we played against all the other clubs that were around. We were okay. We weren't great, but we went there, and it was kind of part of our like senior trip type deal and everything else like that. And we went there and played rugby.
Did you travel Ireland too?
No. So I did later, years later. But when we were 17, it was us and the coach and everybody else. And the coach was 24 years old, and all of us are 17. And we got our asses kicked. like a bunch of kids from Texas trying to play rugby against a bunch of Irish kids that
played rugby their whole life.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we got our asses kicked pretty quick. But there was a pub across the street, and we walked in. We were American at the time. That's all it took.
Yeah.
And we got to drink. And so we were sneaking in one end of the hotel, and we watched the coach do the same thing at the other end. And we're like, all right, we'll just go to bed. Like, nobody knew anything that happened.
Traveling is at that young age when you're with a bunch of kids and you don't know what life really holds. You know you're about to graduate. So when I was a high schooler, we went to Okinawa, Japan for what's called Far East Soccer Tournament. And I won't say my coach's name. Great coach. Yeah. Great person. I talk to him once in a while to this day. We went off base, and in Japan, they just trust you. If you ask for alcohol, they're going to give it to you.
Yeah.
You're a high school kid. You don't know any better. So I didn't do this. But I might have did this. And we come back, and, it's just me. I was a senior at the time. We're having the blast in our little hotel room. My coach comes through, and he's like, "I know what you guys have here." And we're all hiding it behind our back and whatnot. And so he's just like, "All right." And he opens the fridge. He's like, "Okay." He grabs it, and he looks at us. And he's like, "You can either give me what you guys have left, or I'll tell the principal." And we're like, "Oh." So we give it to him, and, at the time, we're, pissed at him. But now I can realize, he could have ruined our lives, our scholarships, everything.
Exactly.
But he was just such a good dude. He knew what was actually important. And, it's funny that, and he was, 26 maybe, just being that young, but still having that influence and maturity it's really cool to, reflect on that.
Yeah, he was a Navy guy before he came back, so he was a Seabee in the Navy. in the Navy, and then came back and
like
was
the construction people.
Yeah, and then came back and was a teacher, and same deal. Like he kept us out of trouble. But we tend to find it. But he kept us out of it as much as he could.
And when I think about like what did he contribute to my life? Like he was like a mentor, role model, someone to like that was going to tell me what was wrong without like forcing it on me.
Exactly.
And it definitely helped me grow and like realize what I can't do and how much trouble I could have got in, because he like, let us know later. Yeah. And he not only let me know how much trouble I would have got in, but he was like, I could have lost my job here,
Yeah, we didn't realize that what we were doing could affect him too.
Yep. Actually, there's a jersey over there in my room, and it says like it's my soccer jersey, and he had just bought those jerseys that year, and I stole mine because I really wanted it. And he used to message me every week saying, "Hey, give me this back, send it back to me." And I just never did. He's a cool dude. He actually asked me that last month. You still got that jersey? I was like, "Yep, I do." You're not getting it. All right, enough about our high school days. All right, ALA, Air Power Leadership Academy.
Yeah.
You didn't know about it 6 months ago. You're a part of it. You're going to be part of the next class. What do you think about it?
I wish the hell that existed when I was younger. Because especially as a young staffer tech, we all get caught in our niches. Like, cops stay with cops. Maintenance typically stays with maintenance. I mean, we stay in our small piece of the bigger part. And I never had any semblances to what other people truly did in the Air Force. I always thought I did. But to actually hear these kids, I say kids, but hear these techs and staffs talking back and forth about what they actually do. Our chaplain's assistant.
Amanda Wilson.
Holy crap, I did not know all the stuff that she has to deal with.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing thing to know now. I wish I had known that 10 years ago. And then just the relationships there that they can build between each other, because now they have a network.
Yep.
That wasn't there before. Outside of us, like, outside of building your own network on your own, which was somewhat difficult when you're a staff or a tech, except for the nature of your job, depending. You didn't have that unless you went to PME or, ALS or NCOA. That's where you got to meet those other career fields and talk to them and stuff like that. But now these guys and girls in this spot, they're just sitting there. They're talking to each other. They get to express opinions and thoughts and stuff like that, and get to listen to a bunch of my stupid ones, and all of ours. And but they're developing that network, and that network early on in their career. Like our EO guy, Seer, Moon and Seer, like just the simple things that I've gleaned off of him, listening to him talk when he does sometimes, because when he does talk, it's very profound. And then Landon, sitting there just listening to a flying crew chief, and he is everything in the world that I thought that crew chiefs have always been, like disgruntled but hard fucking worker. There's probably not very many people better than him in his job. Yep. And just listening to these people, it's pretty amazing. I wish the hell this thing had existed when I was younger. Yeah. And if it did, why didn't somebody tell me about it back then, or why didn't I find it?
It started in 16. That was like the first ever class at OSAN. So that was.
That was master by then. But like I'm excited for this thing, and I hope the hell it continues. I know I can't take it with me to the desert.
You could.
Maybe.
It exists out there.
So then,
look at it. It was just, you could. And everything, it might even be better than here because they can't fucking drive home. They don't have their families.
There ain't no place to fucking go.
In Korea, what made this thing so great is that, sure, the class was from 4 to 6, but then afterwards,
they all stayed.
It was Wingman Wednesday. We would all drink and just sit at a giant table, and it got even better than those guided discussions because it was whatever they wanted. And you could leave when you wanted.
Well, like this last week, and I've noticed it more and more every week. Mm-hmm. The first week, as soon as 6 o'clock hit, outside of anything else, they all just popped. They were gone. Uh-huh. Then the next week, it was a little bit more. Like they stayed for a little bit longer and stuff like that. And then when Chief Guzman and them came, of course, they stayed a little bit later. But this last week, after wrapping up the church panel, like they stayed.
Yeah.
For maybe no more than 5 or 10 minutes, but they were having discussions amongst themselves. And I was like, shit, this is what this thing is. Like, I think this is what this is meant to be. Is that they all talk to each other and get to learn from each other. And more I look at it and I was like, this is amazing. I'm really happy to be a part of it now.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have you as a part of it, because we need that guy that, like, when they talk, everyone just wants to listen. You know, it's just exciting to have that person, and without you, we wouldn't have that. But I think a lot of people go there from the feedbacks I read, just excited to hear you talk about and ramble and just be like a real person, not a senior master sergeant. Like, you're talking to these guys like they're your peers, and that's what they need. It's cool to have masters doing it too, but there's still a thing. Like, when chiefs and seniors, like, it means more when that person has that. And I think that's what really helps. But what we need to decide is, or not figure out, is how do we get what they did today to happen sooner? Because I have these little ideas for this next class that you are now a part of. Yeah, but if you have any, let me hear them before I throw out mine. How do we make them like each other more quicker?
I think that, like, if we can do more things to break them down into to where they're discussing things amongst themselves, not just necessarily us doing guided discussions, but kind of, I think how you did in the very beginning, that first one, like, hey, all right, here's a problem set, break off into small groups and figure it out. They're going to learn more about each other in those small instances than, and I mean, this is a way, and this is not PME, but this is a way PME is going, is to break those down into, hey, here's your problem set, figure it out. And I think because they're grabbing a lot of information and a lot of data that they can then attribute to other places.
Yeah, that worked for you at senior NCOA, so it's going to work for them.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think for them, like, if we can do stuff like that, and then if we can, I don't know, like, I think the great idea, and you said it this last one, is everybody has their own heritage room kind of thing inside their units. Can we go unit to unit every week? Because now, just on the break times, look around the walls. What's on the walls? What is this unit value? What do they hold? I mean, you know, this is this unit. And I mean, too, it's going to put people in a position that, or in a place that they probably don't know, because outside of 2050, I can't tell you where any maintenance guy works.
Yeah.
Like,
Building 2050, not the year.
Yeah, no. And then, like, I didn't realize your office where it was until, I mean, just those simple things too.
That is simple. It would build, like, a lot of pride. Like, if I was the only OSS guy and you, senior or master sergeant, like, all right, we're hosting it at the OSS Heritage Room. Staff Sergeant Tisue, can you get that set up at your Heritage Room? And then I'd be, like, proud to show everyone my Heritage Room and, like, have the mass thing. You would get a little pride out of that. And it is just a little different than a whatever room we're in setting.
I don't know if that would help them get to talking to each other faster or anything like that, but it might. But
that person hosting would be proud to tell everyone everything he knows about his squadron. So maybe that helps that one person, and then his influence and confidence spreads. Yeah. But that's what I want to do, because I feel like we didn't nail that this time, but we can going forward. And so, more interaction. Because I think, like, I like meeting people and talking to people, but it's awkward for me to just walk up to you and say, hey, I like meeting and talking to people. Let's do that. It's just weird.
I would like to try that with somebody one day. Just walk up to, hey, I like meeting and talking to people. How are you? And they'd probably look at me like, get the hell away from me, weirdo. But
I care too much about my self-image to attempt that.
But, I mean, it is, because any professional development, anything that I've ever been a part of, we started doing one internally as cops for a long time. And we started it in Geeslin, and it went to Korea, it went to Tyndall, and now it's here. But it was just a PDS seminar almost, but it was nothing big blue or anything like that. Like, it was just, all right, cool. I'm going to talk to you about leadership. I'm going to tell you the 8 things that I find important about leadership and what I've learned. And I'm going to give it to you down and dirty.
I want these 8 things.
I got a cool little slideshow, and it's all pictures. I hate words on things. But it was just simple. It was just, hey, these are what I know. This is what made me successful and what I've seen other people use to be successful in the cop career field. And so it was kind of cop-centric. But at the same time, it was, and these are all cops in the same room, and they didn't talk a whole lot. Because all of a sudden you're thrown into a room with a bunch of other people and stuff like that. It took them a little bit to break that, to get to the idea of, holy shit, we can talk in here. We can actually have a conversation. Nobody in here is going to look at us stupid or sideways because of what we say.
Yeah.
And I really like when in ALA, when somebody says something and somebody else says, well, hold the fuck on.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with that. Let me say it but the way that they handle it professionally every time, they have disagreements, but it's hard to even catch that they're having a disagreement. They're not necessarily, they're just showing two different sides of an opinion or a view. And I think that's great.
It's great. And then they feel like good about it because there's seniors and masters in this room and other NCOs that aren't interrupting or saying, well, they're just like listening. And it feels good to do that.
Because honestly, the whole time I'm in there, I'm sitting there learning. Like
we learn more than the students.
Yeah, I'm just paying attention because I'm like, holy shit, some of you are 1,000 times smarter than I'll ever be. Like it's just amazing to listen to them. And I think I said it after one of the sessions. I'm pretty excited to see what happens to the Air Force in the next 20 years.
That's good.
If this is a small cross section of our Air Force, we're in pretty good hands. Because you still got the ones that are grinders, you got the ones that are visionaries, and then you got everything in between in there. And I think it's going to be good. Yeah,
it's cool you say that, the difference between the students. When I was selling this to the Chiefs group, one chief said, something like this we want to send, or he might have said, I've seen it before, or I think he said something like this, we want to send our best performers, our Levato winners, our top students. And I interrupted him, in front of a bunch of chiefs, like, no, that's not what we want.
Nope.
We want those guys, but we also want some guys that are disgruntled and don't like the Air Force.
Yeah.
So we can figure out, like, what can we do differently? Like, we need conflict. We need diversity.
What's the rub? Like, what do we're trying to develop people or get them to develop themselves to a degree. And if we're picking all the shiny pennies all the time.
That's the word he used, and I said we don't want that.
Yeah, we want all these little shiny pennies. Cool. No, I want the tarnished ones in there too. I want the ones that are pissed off. Because I was that guy for a very long time.
I wouldn't have thought that.
I was, I was the guy that walked into some things as a staff and tech for a while that was just, I don't want to be here. I have no part of this. Like, just all that good stuff. And then things like this kind of turned my vision around for certain things.
So here's how ALA affected my life. It was 2017, I was in Korea. And a senior master sergeant Cabero said, hey, John, there's this thing called Air Power Leadership Academy. OSS has the spot. We want you to have it. And I remember thinking, like, I don't really care. Like, I don't want to do this. But I also know what happens when you say no to those things. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. Like, he was like, I will make sure you're off for those times. I'll work your shift. Okay. Like, what? That's really cool for a senior to say he'll work my shift so I can go to this school. So I did it. And there were so many, like, things I loved about it and that I didn't love. But what I really liked is this guy, he was a senior at the time, James Kent, who made chief shortly after ALA, and another guy, Chief Bogdan, who I learned was 12 outstanding airmen in the year, but he never said it. Like, he didn't brag about that. He didn't talk about his accomplishments because that would have just made me not like him.
Yeah.
I learned these things about the cadre members later, and I was like, wow, that was really cool. They went 10 weeks without bragging about themselves. They just were there to let us talk, to let me throw my shit out there, and I felt good doing it. Yeah, and it's like Senior Kent reached out to me at week 6 and was like, I was up for master, and I was like, I don't really know how I look. And he's like, well, let me look at your records. And he had this thing called the Skittle report on, like, having awards is one color, leadership is another color, school is a color, like, all these things. Didn't know about it, but he showed me that and was like, and he told me, he's like, look, I don't think you're going to make master this year unless you, like, score high 80s. Your board score is probably going to be a 315. So you're probably not going to make it, but look, here's what you can do. And I was like, okay, thank you, sir. Like, it was cool that this dude just took his time out of his day to an hour to show me. He came to my office to show me this because of ALA. He met me and did this. But I also remember, I was like, nah, 315 is good enough. And sure enough, I studied my dick off and somehow I made it. But my board score was 315. Like, this guy knew. Yeah. So I reached out and was like, man, you were right about my board score. Well, he reached out to me first and told me I made master because he was the squadron superintendent. And it was really cool for him to, like, reach out and do that. And he even was like, I was wrong. Like, you proved me wrong. You know, it's just really cool to make those connections with these high-ranking people. And now they're like all chiefs. You know, Chief Bogdan is I don't know if he's the command chief at Travis or just his group superintendent.
Okay.
But, you know, a lot of these guys that were masters, brand new seniors when they were teaching me in 17, like these leadership concepts, are now like these very high, successful chief master sergeants. And it's just cool. Because not saying all of us cadre are that smart and competent, but some of us might be. Bobby Miner probably will be. Northam seems fucking smart as fuck.
I think all of y'all are. I mean, because you got Sweat. He's for being an NDI guy and running a sheet metal shop.
Yeah.
Like that's. I found this out from a maintenance buddy. Like I was sitting there talking to him. I was like, "Hey man, NDI," and he goes, "Yeah, he's running the sheet metal shop. That's unheard of." Like he's like, so when it comes to the career field, like he's moving places.
Sweat.
And I was like, yeah, and I was like, that's awesome. Miner out of Sear, like the dude, he's a quiet professional.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, and when he talks, I'm listening because he's got some stuff to deliver. Erica is she just seems to have the shit together.
Yeah.
Like I mean, better than I do, better than most of us. And I mean, Bender, I would have liked for him to continue, but got pulled away for a TDY. But like that guy, just bending his ear a little bit on certain things. Like he's super smart. And then watching you, the way that you put this thing together and the way that you're guiding things, like dude, that's phenomenal. And then Scott, I mean, couldn't have picked a better first sergeant to be on this thing, because just him being a maintenance first sergeant, what he's doing over there, and then what he's doing. I mean, it's perfect. Like I think the dynamic's right. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if every last one of the cadre are chiefs at some point. I mean, because it seems like everybody's. I mean, Scott, he already said what his ambition is, but I mean, I think everybody else, I think they're on the right path from what I could see. And I had a guy, I wish the hell ALA was around when he was around, a guy named Gonzalez. He was an OG chief at Whiteman, and he came to Kandahar with me. He was a group chief out of Kandahar. And
For MSG?
Yeah, so it was we were we weren't even a wing. We were a group at Kandahar at the time.
Okay.
So we fell under the Bagram wing. So he was the chief on the base. He was the only chief, actually,
Really?
on the base. Yeah.
What year was this?
This was 15.
Oh, wow.
So I got to Kandahar, was it March of 15, and I left at Thanksgiving, so I left at the end of November. And we had RPA guys were out there because we were an expeditionary group, so we weren't a wing. But security forces was a flight under the mission support squadron, which was kind of weird. But this guy, he did the same kind of thing. He's like, hey, he's running small little professional development things, and there's only like 200 Air Force on the base. And he'd be like, hey, Goose, you're not coming to any of these. I was like, no, I'm busy, Chief. And he goes, oh, okay, you're too busy, you're coming to this? I was like, yeah, I'm busy. I was that guy at the time.
Yeah, it's easy to say you're too busy to do something.
Well, and he goes, all right, cool, we're going to have another one tomorrow. What are you doing? I was like, I'm going on a mission tomorrow. So sure enough, I disappeared for 2.5 days. And then he came back, and he's like, all right, you're back now. So I don't think you're going again for another couple days, right? And I was like, yeah, you're right. He goes, all right.
You're right.
All right, come on up to this one. We're having a day. I was like, okay. And I walk in, and there's just a couple other guys sitting in there, and it was nothing more than it was an EPR writing or EPR bullet writing. And I was like, oh, crap. Here we go again. I'm going to sit through another one of these. And the way that he broke things down, I was like, that's pretty impressive. Like it took me a minute to get out of my cynicism for a second to go, holy shit. Like, that makes sense. Like, I get that, okay? And then, so, afterwards, like, just that little piece to where I'm like, he's just talking to us like people, and he's not sitting there going, this is how, as a chief, I view it. And no, he's just like, hey, this is the way I do it, and it's helped me. It might not help you, but it's a different way.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, that's kind of cool. So then afterwards, I was like, hey, Chief, mind if I bend your ear on something real quick? He's like, no. And then that one question that I had turned into a 3-hour conversation.
What was the question?
If I can remember right now. I know that the question ended up to where he took my records and dissected my records.
Oh, yeah.
All the way through. Kind of like in what you were talking
Kent,
about,
yep.
just kind of.
Chief Kent now, yeah.
Kind of reminded me of that. And he just took my records and dissected them and had 2 other seniors who were at the unit at the time. One who's a chief now, she was calm, and the other one, Orrin Talbert, he retired as a senior. But he sent my records to both of them, too. And basically had a mini board on my records and where
3 chiefs just looking at.
Yeah, where I need to get better at and what I needed and this and that. And then called me up to his office, and then we sat down, and he just went through it for me. But I remember one of the questions, I can't remember what question I asked him, but I remember the question he had in his reply back is he said, what do you want out of this career? And I was like, well, I don't know. And then he kept asking questions until he was finding more and more about me.
So what do you want out of your career now? Because I know.
I would like to be a chief one day, but that's not what I truly want is.
I think you want the influence.
That's what I want. When I hang it up, I want people to be able to look back and say, that guy had a positive influence. And then that's all they ever need to remember about me. Because after that, I'm going to walk away, and that's going to be that. The Air Force is going to move on. That's the greatest thing that I've come to the real realization of over the past 4 or 5 years. You got to walk away. At some point, everybody's got to walk away. But when is that time? And I've asked a couple friends, when did you know? And they said, you'll know.
Like retired friends?
Yeah. And just when is it time to hit that? And because I'm not there. And I keep looking at them, and I'm like, but am I giving too much? Like, have I given too much? Said, well, that's different for everybody. I was like, okay. But at the end of it, and I have numerous friends, who's going to still be there when you walk away from it? It's your family. So every now and again, like Chief Guzman's fucking thing about go to your kid's baseball game, that was impressive to me.
Yeah.
Because that, just listening to that part where, you're not that important. Like even when he said, when I walk outside of here, nobody knows what a command chief is. I was like, kids don't know it.
Yeah.
And I was like,
his kids don't know it. He said that. My kids don't know it.
And I'm like, holy shit, he's right. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter. Outside of those gates, like, it's not, I mean, outside of your discount at fucking Golden Corral, it's not a big deal. But, I mean, like, I'll be honored that I served and everything, but when I do leave, I want to make sure that I leave it in the right way and that the right people are standing there at the end. And that's kind of, I have no idea what the question was now anymore, but that's one of those things I look forward to.
I mean, the question was, and I answered it for you, and I regretted it as soon as I said it. It's what do you want to do for the career? What do you want to do for the organization? That is the question.
ALA, cops, what?
Air Force. Because you said you're not ready to hang it up yet.
No,
you
not
can
even
still
close.
do 5 years and 10 months, 5 years and 2 months, according to my research.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of time left. You could commit if you want to, and you can also at any moment say, "I'm done."
Yeah,
like you have that power. So what is it that you still want to do? Because that would help other people, I think. What is a guy at 20 years who could retire as an E8, or could probably do 10 more years? I think if you tried to make chief, you would. What do you want to do at this point? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Answer both of those.
In 5 years, 1 to 2 places. Mm-hmm. Either I'll be a chief and I'll continue to help, or I'll be a civilian and I'll figure out a different way, a different path. And I know kind of what that path will be, but that'll be just family and just concentrating on them as much as possible. Because I got 2 10-year-old girls and
Good twins?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I got one that will be 1 year old in 3 weeks.
Man, congrats.
Yeah. So I put a big gap in between them. I have no idea why. But either way, my 10-year-olds, they've given a lot. And my girlfriend, she gives a lot. So I'm going to give back. I mean, that's going to be what I do when I'm done. But if I make chief, I've asked her to hang on for a little bit longer, and she will. But the big thing...
Does she live in Seattle?
No. Okay. She lives in Medical Lake, so we live together in Medical Lake. No, my ex lives in Seattle.
Okay.
But no, out of the organization, like, so what I continue, or the reason I continue to do this, I guess, is I'm having fun.
Yeah.
Honestly. I don't know of another organization in the world where I can do the shit that I do. Where at any given moment, I can go anywhere in the world. And next April, I'm going to get to go do some cool stuff and travel some more. And
then come back here.
Yeah, probably, honestly, tell you the truth. Or somewhere else. So, but then that, and I get to watch these young 18-year-old kids walk into our Air Force, and I get to help mold them. I mean, TIs can say what they want. Tech school instructors, that's awesome. My guys mold them. My guys make them who they're going to be in the Air Force. Those frontline supervisors.
And as people for the rest of their life.
Those frontline supervisors that grab them and show them what life's going to be about for a little while.
Yeah.
For 4 years or 30, depending on what they want. Because the greatest part is the next senior master sergeant that's going to be running the 92nd Security Forces is sitting in my squadron right now or somewhere in the Air Force, and they're on their way here. Which I hope the hell is Kyle Billings, but he's got orders, so he's going to go elsewhere. Schriever, yeah.
When does he leave?
Same time I do.
Okay, I was going to
say,
so could be your replacement.
We all leave at the same time. No, there's another guy named Chris Carrier. Chris is made master. He's on his way back from a deployment. He'll easily take this up.
That's your pick?
Yeah.
All right.
Wholeheartedly.
I look forward to meeting Chris.
He's a no-nonsense guy, and he's pretty awesome. But then you got, like the next chief master sergeant in the Air Force is floating around somewhere. And then the one that's going to be the one in 20 years is somewhere in the Air Force now. That's pretty cool to think that at some point I'll interact with that individual. And I hope to hell it's a positive interaction. I hope I'm able to influence somebody in the right way, in the right direction, in a positive way. Because there are negative interactions like anybody in the military has with somebody. But some of my guys, like in my career field alone, the next AMC top cop might be sitting somewhere in my squadron right now. How do I make sure that I'm hoping that I give them the right information? Because whatever I do now, they're going to look back on, like I said, they might not remember the bad people. They're going to remember the bad experiences. And I don't really care if they remember me, but I hope that they remember what potentially I did for them or what potentially we did as a unit together and what right looks like. Mm-hmm. And then carry that. Man, that sounds narcissistic as shit, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it's normal though. One of my favorite books ever, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. It's about that. Once you've hit, like, I forget, they list 5 goals. It's like rank or like positional power, money, family. Like once you've hit 5 goals, I forget what they are, but like the most 5 common goals, what's next is leaving a legacy. And like, so that's normal to want to be remembered, to like want to have these influence on these people that are coming up over you. So what you're saying is normal, even though it is about it does sound narcissistic.
It sounds horrible.
But it's normal, and it's like what people want once they've hit all their other goals, which I'm assuming at 20 years and you could retire at any time. Not, you've probably hit all your goals. You're just now trying to leave that legacy, which is normal.
Well, one of my goals, I said it 18 years ago, is I want to be a chief.
Yeah.
I haven't hit that one yet. Don't know if I ever will. And honestly, it sounds, I don't really care. What I care about now, I'm at a point where my entire job is to take care of people, and hopefully I'm doing that well. Like that's all I really give a shit about anymore. Is, hey, at the end of the day, all my guys walk out of that gate and they're happy. It might not always be happy, but are they trained? Are they equipped? And do they know what they're going after? And how can I help them? And they know that they have somebody that, hey, they can walk into my office and go, hey, boss, this is what I need help with. And I'm going to help them with that. Like, as long as that's happening, I'm good.
Yeah, I can't confirm or deny if that's happening, but I can say Q, the guy that was in the tower, you were leaving in April. So clear. I'm sure you did not directly tell Q,
no,
I'm leaving. But, you know, obviously you're making enough impact to where people are paying attention to what you're about to do. So that's a good sign.
Yeah,
that you're getting there.
It's surprising.
Yeah. I mean, that dude, like, everyone liked that guy. And it was weird because he didn't talk unless you talked to him.
Yeah,
so maybe that's what you got to do to be liked. Don't talk until someone talks to you.
I pulled him aside and I was like, hey, man. It was like him and the other one that was up there. I was like, hey, this is what I need you to do. This was a favor, so please don't screw this up.
It was blatant. I never met the other one, but Q, it was blatant that dude was told, don't talk unless you're talked to. It was almost awkward. It's like, wait, man.
He just sitting like a statue in the corner.
We were like, damn. I remember like stressing out, like, where are these 4 towers at? There's 4. I don't know where they're at. Does anyone know? And I looked at him and was like, they're cop towers. Where are they at? He's like, he just pointed them out. I was like, oh, all right. I'm glad you're up here. You know, like he like was hearing us stress out, but didn't say anything until I looked at him and said, where is this shit at?
Yeah.
And he knew. Oh, here's a good question I got for you that I wanted you to be warmed up before I asked. You ready?
Yeah.
You have your CCAF.
Uh-huh.
And you don't like college, though. Mm-mm. So I guess that's my question is, like, it's not, you said college is ALA. I'm paraphrasing what I remember from 8-9 weeks ago.
Yeah.
College is not for me, but it's important.
Yep.
That's what you said. No, I wanted you to expand, but I didn't want to interrupt.
That is very damn true. I will tell you now, I'm a consumer of knowledge, not college, though, because it's, I don't know. Don't get me wrong, I still get something out of writing a random paper here and there because I'm going to learn something new.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily going to be anything that professor wants to hear. And I go to one of the degree mill universities that are out there. I'm still actively pursuing my bachelor's at 20 years, which I will have by the end of this next year. Because I think I'm 9 classes away right now. So I'm actively going after it. But so when I joined, I was going to go to Eastern Central University, or I'm sorry, UCO, University of Central Oklahoma. I was going to go there. Didn't, and worked in the oil field instead, and then decided to join the Air Force. Joined the Air Force. Everything was great.
How old were you when you joined?
I was 18 when I joined. I graduated high school at 17.
Because I thought you joined at 18, and then you said oil field. I was like, oh,
yeah,
maybe
I worked in the oil field as a senior in high school, too.
Cool.
And it was a real small town in Oklahoma. After I left Texas, I went to a very small school in Oklahoma. We graduated with 40 people.
Oh, that's small.
And, but so all this good stuff, right? And I joined the Air Force, and everybody told me college was important. And, my father told me that too, but I was just, okay, cool. So I got there. My entire deal was learn my job. And my job took up so much of my time, what I thought at the time, because, as an 18-year-old kid, so I had other things to entertain my time. Jumping out of planes, flying, doing whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't go for a very long time. I got to England. This was 9 years. So I'm a tech sergeant at this point. I had a flight chief pull me aside, back when we still did the EPR rating system. And he said, I'm going to rate you a 3 on your next EPR. I like that. I'm going to say, what?
What year is this?
This was 2009, 2010.
So that's like 30 points off your promotion test. Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to rate you a 3 on your next EPR. I was like, what? Why? And he said, you need to get your CCAF. I was like, but that, like, why? And he's like, do it or that's going to happen. Simple. No talking about it anymore. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. I had 3 classes. So sure enough, I knocked him out and I got a CCAF and I looked at him and I said, see? And he goes, good. He goes, now you're more marketable. I said, well, what do you mean? Then he explained it to me. He explained it to me to the effect of, you and I get a monopoly board.
Real quick, anyone who doesn't know what CCAF is, associate's degree in the Air Force. Yeah, that's pretty, you're expected to get it.
Exactly. But somebody hands us a monopoly board, right? And doesn't give us the rules or anything else, just hands us a monopoly board, all the pieces and everything else. We might start figuring it out, but we're not necessarily going to get all of it. Mm-hmm. And then some guy over here is reading all the rules on the box, and he comes and plays with us. He's going to kick our ass every time. Yeah. And he goes, that's why. He said, it's simple. He said, the rules of the game, he goes, you want to continue to be in the Air Force and continue to progress and continue to lead and stuff like that. And he says, you have to do certain things. I was like, shit, you're right. Okay. So I got my CCAF, and then I was hungry for college for a little bit because I was learning stuff. And you
realized it's not that hard.
No. Yeah. And so for about a year or two, I did some more. And then all of a sudden, just everything stopped because of PCS, a deployment, more job stuff and everything, and I kept making excuses. That's basically what it boils down to. Like, oh, well, this is getting in the way, and this is getting
Jocko
in the way.
Taught you that.
Yeah. And then instead of going, hey, fucker, get up right now, make this is going to happen. And so it was no shit 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I need to get off my ass. Yeah. It's time. And I don't want my kids to I want my kids to know that I got a college degree. And I was looking at outside of my monetary value too. On the outside, degree's worth a hell of a lot more money. But all in all, I just want to be able to say I accomplished that. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to say I did that instead of just sitting here. And my job, my phone rings every day, all day. It's just normal. It's part of the job description, and everything that happens, I'm dealing with. But everybody that says they're too busy, well, Vale, oddly enough, he said, "Hey man," he goes, "cut out an hour. Yeah, certain days, just put on your calendar. That's your hour. Knock out what you need to. Fuck, it's that simple. Mm-hmm. It's not hard, but it's just that self-discipline to do it." Because what do I want to do? Well, I want to hit the gym. Well, I can still hit the gym and do this. Mm-hmm. I want to drink a beer. Well, I can do that. I want a motorcycle. Well, you can't do that in college. So what's going to give for a little bit? Do your college first. Use that as a reward. Yeah. You know, stuff like that. But it's worked. And I'm continuing. And like I said, by the end of 2022, I will officially have a bachelor's. And then I've already talked to a buddy on how to do a master's. Yeah. Because the hell with it. I might as well.
I'm telling you, it's not that hard. Like I wanted to get my CCF and never do school again. So I did that. And then I was on a deployment and this guy was like, I want to be straight mid-shifts. And he cut me a deal. He's like, tell you what, if you start your bachelor's at this school, like it's easy. I'll help you sign up. You can be straight mids. And I was like, I don't know how to sign up. He was like, I'll tell you. Yeah. I'll take you there to do it. I'll help you. I was like, okay, deal. And sure enough, he got me signed up for my first class and said, here's all the templates on how to write an APA format paper. You can do this. You know, and this was 2016 that happened. And now I recently got my master's this year, you know, just because this dude was like senior master and strong was like, just do this, you know. Yeah. You can have your thing if you do this for me. And I'll never forget that because had I never met that dude, I'd still be just some guy with the CCAF, probably thinking exactly what you're thinking. But like that little influence of some guy saying, go do this. And now I have also done that, like that exact same thing to other people. Like what do you mean you only have your CCF? Come with me. We'll get you signed up. Like, come on, let's go right now. And we go to the education office. I get them signed up. And once they're signed up, they can't back out or else they owe $750. Like, they're committed. And it's just like it's so simple to get people to do things if you just put a little effort into it.
Yeah.
But I remember at ALA, like, I don't know if it was the little synchronization before the first week, but you had said that the school thing you said on week 1. Before that, you just said, I just want to give back. Like, I'm close to the end. I just want to give people what I know. Mm-hmm. And I remember in that moment, like, I was like, all right, this dude's going to be great. And then you showed that, and whatever you said to those students for them to just want to listen to you, there's something you're doing that is getting people to want to just listen to you. So we got to figure out what that is so other people can do that.
I have no idea.
I can't answer it.
But
there's something.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Because as many times as it works, the great part with ALA is a candid audience. Like, they're basically, they're not trapped, but they're there. Yeah. They're not going anywhere. So, but I wonder if I get across to my guys like that at work too. Like, when I talk, I think they listen, but do they know that I give a shit about them too? Like, that's a big thing. And like I said, when I want to give back, because I know I'm on the backside of my career. Either way it goes, no matter if it's another 9 years, if it's another 2, whatever it is, I know I'm on the backside of it. Now, I want to give back. However, because there are so many people that helped me along the way, I would not be anywhere near where I am now if it wasn't for a bunch of different people. And luck and timing, honestly. Because that's where a shit ton of it is.
Yeah, there's so much you're saying that right now that I'm like, I got to say this. And I don't know if I'm going to remember it all. But the first thing is it's cool to know you could retire at any moment, but that's not your plan. You want to stick around and influence people while you can. And you're still having fun, which gives me and other guys optimism. Like, maybe I'll still be having fun at that point. Because there's those moments where stress happens and I'm like, oh, fuck this. I'd get out if I could. But I don't, because there's an end goal and I do enjoy it. So it's good to hear you say that. Man, so much more. And I should just made a list. I should have made a list of it.
At the end of the day, I used to do this for a long time. Had just all this piece of legal paper sitting in my desk. There was an in particular year that I was like, this is it, I'm done. I can't keep doing this anymore. And it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna make just 2 columns, good and bad. Was today a good day or a bad day? I'm going to make tick marks at the end of the day. That's it. That's all I'm going to do. And don't get me wrong. Probably the last hour of the day influenced me the most in that decision. But I would sit there and I'd do that. And I think I only got 190 to 120 days out. And I was like, there's been 4 bad days.
Oh, shit, okay.
I'm like, what the hell? I'm going to make a decision off of 4 out of this many. And I was like, son of a bitch. But those 4 days were damn near in a row, too. Mm-hmm. And I was like, and it's a lot for a person sometimes, depending on what it is. And I was just like, shit, all right. Maybe I'll stick this out. And then I just started writing stuff down. I started, just like a vision board, I guess you could say. I just started writing down, hey, this is this goal. This is this goal. And all I do is I write down, I think, 24 to a month. Knock them out.
Yeah.
Figure out it one way or another, knock it out. And that's how I started going back to school. I was sitting there, I was like, re-enroll in college. Well, I wrote it down. I need to fucking do it.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, shit, all right. So that was a long-ass process here, by the way, too, because I had to go back to the education center 3 fucking times. And then they unlocked my stuff because I hadn't gone for 2 or 3 years. They're like, here's your shit. It's unlocked now. And then I was like, all right, check. Now actually enrolling classes. And, all right, cool, check.
Yeah.
And that's all I would do. And then all of a sudden at the end of 6 months, I was like, holy shit, I did 12 things. Let me see if I can do more. And I kept doing that. And I'm goal-oriented to a degree. But there's a lot of intangibles in there that I can't get after. I can't put down on paper. Did I help this person? Did I help that person? Did I do this? Did I do that? So
I feel like a goal you could write is, did I try to help people?
Yeah.
You can say yes or no to that at the end of the day.
True.
Yeah.
I like that one.
I read this thing. It says you're 42% more likely to accomplish your goals if you write them down. So that's why I write my goals down. And I don't know if you saw it. It's in that other room. But I write down my goals. I pick 5 things every year I want to do, and I write them down. And I usually do all 5. Not always, but I usually do them. And then it says you're 72% likely to accomplish your goals if you write them down and you talk to them and share them with other people, because then you don't want to be a liar.
Because somebody else is going to ask you about it. Hey, did you do this? No, shit, I didn't even think about that.
But it's perfect. It makes perfect sense. Like if I there's so many things in my head where I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that for so many things you've said. I'm like, I'm going to do that for the rest of my life. But I'm going to probably forget about them unless I write them down or rethink or re-listen to this every year or so. Yeah. So it just makes sense to write things down that you want to do and then go after it. It sounds like, oh, that's easy to do. I'll just remember it. I don't need to write them down. But then it doesn't happen. Like you have to do it.
I used to make a couple of my guys in my troops, and they'd bring me that same thing. Mm-hmm. And it was like, hey, you don't have to do this, but if you want to, put a couple ideas down on paper, a couple goals that you have on paper, and bring it to me. So they did, and then we'd sit down, and it's like, all right, cool, let's dissect this thing. What does that take to get there? Mm-hmm. It's like, because you got some pretty lofty goals there. Does it take about, how many steps is it going to take to get there? And one of my in particular, great dude. So Lance House, he brought in, he's like, hey, sir, I want to do this. I was like, okay, cool. So how do we get after that? Well, I said, what's step 1 of this goal? And he came up with it, and it's like, okay, what's step 2? And he's sitting there still writing. And we go all the way through it, and I said, did I come up with a damn one? And he goes, nope. Yeah. I was like, all right, cool. I was cool. Like, the easy part, scratch 1 off a week. And by the end of this, I was like, in this year, you have that done. Yep. He was like, shit, I didn't even think of that. And I was like, yeah. And it was like, because it just looks like a giant goal until you start breaking down in small bites.
Yep. This is
one foot in front of the other.
This is why I wanted to be a master, why I'd like to one day make senior, and why one day I'd like to make chief, is that positional power comes with this superhero power where you can set visions and goals for people and then just give them confidence that they can do this, and they do it. Yeah. Because, oh, wow, chief believed in me. Yeah. And it's just this, and that excites me and gets me off, and that's what I want to be able to do is just tell people what they want, find out, listen to them, what they want to do, tell them this is what you should do, or let's make this your goal, and then give them confidence and check in on them they can do it, and they're going to do it. Yeah. And that would be really satisfying, I think, as a life. And to be able to do that for 180 people, and it's going to be more if you're a chief, it would be so satisfying.
Every now and again, I'll have some of them, it's like, hey, go do this, and because they'll tell me they want to do something. I was like, okay, cool, you got a week to go do this. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to find you in a week. And they think, shit, he ain't going to find me in a week.
Yeah, they do think that.
Fuck off. He ain't going to find me. And then sure enough, I walk away. What they don't see is I'm setting a reminder in my damn phone. Hey, go check on Kahee in a week for his retrain on this. And then they're just like, so I'm not a genius at this by any means. I don't remember everything in the world. Most of the time, as soon as I see somebody, I'm like, I remember. Yep. But if for some reason it slips, I'll have something that'll kick me and go, hey, you said this.
Yep.
Go find it. And then that way I can make sure that I follow through, because that's the only thing that a lot of the leaders that I've had that made from good to great. The good ones, they truly gave a damn and they wanted to see people succeed. Yep. And a lot of them are arrogant. You find a lot of them that have that cockiness to them a little bit because they don't want to lose, which is great. But the follow through, hey, go do this. This is the way I expect you. In a week, I'm going to come find you about this. You wouldn't see them. Okay. So I did it anyways, but were they hollow or, what? And then sure enough, and then DeGennaro was one of those guys that would just randomly show back up.
Yeah.
Hey, you still doing this?
Do you think DeGennaro had a calendar thing to tell him to go do that?
I honestly think that guy was that good.
Yeah.
Tell you the truth, and he's still that good. every now and again, hey man, how's it going? You know, what's going on? He lives down in Fort Walton Beach, living life. Finally, just him and his wife and his kids.
Just retired. He does nothing now. Just retired.
Yeah, just retired.
Good for him.
And he could easily get a job doing pretty much anything in the world he wants to do, but he's having a good time. But I don't know if he was that good or if he had it written down somewhere, but I will tell you, every one of the guys and girls that he supervised, he had a folder on every last one of them, and it was everything he could think of to put in there. And then
on every person?
Yeah. On every, and so not on the whole 160, 150,
just his direct.
like his directs.
Yeah.
And he had a folder on every last one of them. And I've picked this up. I do this now on all my masters and a couple of my techs. I have just, hey, they're ACAs and stuff like that. But then I also have in there a piece of paper that I've written, like, hey, what's his goals? What's motivating him? What's doing this? What's doing that? This and that. And it's just observations I've made throughout the time and how I can help. And if there's anything that I'm missing, like I'll refer back to it sometimes. And that's the way it's helped. Yeah. It's not necessarily end all be all, but it's a helpful tool.
Yeah, that sounds helpful to, like, you have a whole folder on someone. Yeah. Like at any moment you could just, I forgot much about this person. Let me reflect on what I do know and go off that. That would help. It wouldn't hurt. It's going to help.
And if any of my people are listening to this, you can come in and see that anytime you want.
You got a folder on me yet? Make a folder on me. Yeah, so when I think about the people I truly admire, Jason Harper, Stephen Harrow, they're all guys that outrank me. And I just remember, like, what do I think they did better than anyone else? Is they always just let me talk to them like a person. They always thought they both outranked me. One was a chief, one now is a senior. But when I met them when I was a tech, I met the chief when I was a tech, I met the senior when I was a staff, and they just always let me think I was equal to them. Like, they would talk to me, they would call me John, and it would just, like, I could literally say whatever I wanted, and they would always be like, just give me some advice and be like, do it or not. Like, this is what I think I would do in your situation. And it made it so easy to be like, okay. Like, it was just easy to follow and do things for people that didn't act like they were better than me, I guess, or yeah. I know we're not supposed to be friends with subordinates, but that's how I felt with them, and it made me willing to do whatever they asked, or like just trust that they would do it.
I think when it comes to all of us, I mean, at the end of the day, no matter what rank anybody wears, you're still a person. Mm-hmm. And if you feel valued in an organization or by the person that you work with, it's going to do amazing things.
That's really what they did. They made me feel valued.
Yeah, and that's, like, for me, I'm not better than anybody. I had a while ago, this was 5-6 years ago, I'm a tech sergeant. Well, no. Yeah, tech sergeant, master sergeant, whatever it is at the time. I know that I'm making a duty roster for the day. And some of my airmen, I had a master sergeant. Yeah, I was a tech sergeant. So I had a master sergeant that I was working for. He said, make the duty roster for tomorrow. I was like, no problem. So I did it up. And I put all the tech sergeants, including myself, on all the posts that nobody wants to be on. The flight line and the search bit.
Yeah.
And I'm working the search bit, which in southern Mississippi is hot and 90% humidity. Like, that's, nobody wants to work there. But I put us all there. And I handed it to the flight chief. And he looked at me and he said, why? And I said, you got a bunch of A1Cs and senior airmen that complain they're never on the road. Now they'll be on the road. They'll get to drive around a bit, this and that. I was like, doesn't mean it's good or bad. And then I had one tech sergeant look at me and she goes, I didn't make tech sergeant to do this. I didn't promote to go back and did what I used to do 6-7 years
before
ago.
You tell me what you said, I'm really excited. How do you influence these kind of people?
And she just said, no, not going to do it. And I do remember specifically, I looked at the flight chief and I said, it's time for you to do your job. That didn't really go well for me, but
But it went well for her. Like,
No,
she got
no.
away with that.
No. Just telling the flight chief he should do his job and
okay.
interject. That didn't go well for me. But so I looked at her and I said, "What do you mean you didn't promote to do this?" I was like, "So you think you're too good?" Yeah, I am. I was like, "Then you need to leave the Air Force. It's time to go." I said, "You need to go find another job to where they'll cater to that, because this isn't it. Because at any given day, those are the people watching your back, and you're supposed to watch theirs. And if I'm going to put them in a position that I'm not willing to go do myself, it doesn't make any sense to me."
Yep.
I was like, instead of saying, "Hey, go do this," why don't you say, "Hey, follow me?" I was like, I'm going to follow that person more than I will the person sitting somewhere going, "Go do," instead of "let's go."
Yeah.
And it's like, that's just my aspect on it. And I said, it doesn't have to be good or right or anything else, but that's just what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, the flight chief went with my idea to a degree. Like, it was tempered to a bit because it was a little extreme at first.
I liked it. It was just one day.
Well, and so he tempered it a bit. And because, again, been doing it a lot longer, a little wiser than I was. And, but it worked out. And we started getting, because we had a high law enforcement operational tempo. So we had a lot of young guys and girls that were involved in situations they had never imagined getting involved in.
Yeah.
And now we got to a point where we were training them a little bit and getting them that opportunity before it hit them right in the face. Mm-hmm. And that young tech sergeant that she and I were together, she's now out of the military and I'm not. So I don't know if that's a win or not, but.
Did she retire or she got out?
No, she was removed.
Oh, okay. That's too bad. It's too bad they didn't influence her earlier to be different.
I wish.
You never want to ask people to do something you're not willing to do yourself. Like,
Exactly.
That's how I perceive it. And I know there's too many jobs out there that I can't do them all myself, but I know, like, some people are going to do them.
Yeah.
So you just don't ask people to do things you're not willing to do yourself. Once in a while, you have to do the shit work.
Yeah.
To show them that you're not better, yeah.
And sometimes, every now and again, like, I wish every now and again I could just work the gate for a day. And,
you can.
And
you should take a day of leave and then use your
Just
day of
go
leave
work
to
there.
do it. Like, that would be like, holy shit, why'd that guy do that? One day of leave. Yeah, it wouldn't be terrible.
It wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah. I'll do it with you. If you do it, I'll do it with you.
All right.
I don't know what I'm going to do,
All right.
but I'll stand there with you and be like, what am I doing? But just make sure it's not cold.
No.
I'll get pissed off if someone says, stay warm, young man.
That happens every day,
That shit
too.
pisses me off.
Like, or when it rains, stay dry.
Yeah, for my ALA classes with cops, ALS classes with cops, NCOA with cops, they all bitch about, I hate when people tell me to stay warm.
You're just sitting there going, "Oh, really? Thank you. Thank you very much."
I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah.
My dad used to say that to people all the time. And I thought it was a nice thing. All right, here's another story I got for you. We got this thing will cut off in 37 minutes. Well, not this, but this runs out of a video.
okay.
So we got 37 more minutes if you can continue to talk, because I know I feel like we could go for another hour.
Yeah, I'm in.
All right. One of my favorite stories about you, and I'll cut this out if you can't talk about it, but I think you can, is you were doing an investigation with someone, and you were talking to them. They wouldn't talk, and then you're like, all right, it's lunchtime. Let's go get lunch. You, your other cop buddy, and the person being investigated went to lunch, and they just started saying everything. So, without talking too much, without talking too much about that, what I want to know from that are on like strategies of influencing people, or just strategies to create trust and relationships quickly to get people to talk. That's what I actually want to know, because you did that with that person.
So, one of the ways I learned this was crisis negotiation. I went to that course a while ago.
How long is that course?
So the first one is 2 weeks, and it's basically taught by the FBI. But they put you in a room, they put chairs back to back, and they give you a piece of paper and me a piece of paper, and it's who your character is supposed to be, and then who I'm supposed to be. And we're talking to each other without ever looking at each other. It's very difficult to do. Actually, it doesn't sound like it, but it seems, to me at the time, was very difficult. So you start talking pretty quickly, and you start to figure out other things that'll make somebody just come show you who they are. So some of my guys, the way I do it is just walk up and find that common thread right off the bat. Like, whatever it is. I mean, we all have one right now.
Right.
So the normal common thread right now is Air Force. I mean, that's an easy one. Like, we all went through basic. We all went through tech school. So that's an easy one you can start with. But then for, like, when I talk to my guys, that's kind of 3 slides. You kind of got me on one of my things that nobody really knows about is I catch up on something that I can remember, that I can go, okay, I remember this guy, I remember this girl, and then I remember this about them. And I can start with that and then branch off and blossom into other things. But when it comes to developing trust in somebody that quickly, that incident wasn't really trust. That was just comfort. They got too comfortable.
That's fair.
But to develop trust is simple. You are a resume. I mean, so everything I do every day and everything anybody else does in the military, especially in a leadership role, if you handle it wrong, people will see it. If you handle it right, it'll be talked about. It won't be talked about as much, but it'll be talked about. And all of a sudden, if your guy finds himself in a weird situation, other people around him will say, hey, you got Sergeant Tisue, and going to get taken care of. They're going to watch out for you. That's going to happen because I've seen it happen before. That automatically already starts to develop that little bit of trust. Yeah. And if somebody says, somebody in your shop says, all right, cool, Dodge, somebody walks out and says, hey, I've seen the way he interacts. I've seen this. And, this is what I know of. Or, oddly enough, your reputation precedes you in the military so much faster. Like, if I'm in a PCS somewhere, there's 3 guys already there that know that somebody here, and they're going to start interacting. In particular, I got here, and one of the kids that was here, he reached back to 2 of my old troops from Coonson 2 bases ago.
Yeah. How was this guy?
And said, hey, man, I just got this guy as a flight chief. What's he like? And they screenshotted what they sent him and sent it to me, too. And I was just like...
You're like 8 months
out.
Like,
wow, that's pretty impressive. Thanks, guys. So my credibility, when I already showed up, was somewhat established. Now it's up to me not to ruin that. Yeah. I mean...
But you wouldn't have that credibility if you were ruining that at other places.
Yeah, if you're just a cesspool of shit, roaming around, people are gonna say that about you. Mm-hmm. But the part is you're never gonna make everybody happy either. I mean, there are gonna be people out there that are like, hey man, that guy's not the greatest. That's fine. Did you do the best you could for that person at the time? If you did, hang your hat on it, move on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like that credibility, developing that trust early, you have to have the credibility. To me, everything falls back. As soon as you lose that, trust is gone. Mm-hmm. It doesn't exist anymore. And everybody says you ever remember getting in trouble when you were a kid and said you got to gain my trust back?
Yeah.
Yeah, my parents used to say that. And I looked at them and said, there's no real gain in somebody's trust back. Once you break that, it's almost gone. And I mean, there might be a semblance of that, but it's never going to be the way it used to be. Mm-hmm. Because as long as, and I'm not talking for my superiors, my subordinates, that's the one that I concern myself with, because if I break their trust in me, then I've lost the unit.
Yep.
Like I cannot effectively lead anymore, or not the way I want to. Mm-hmm. So they have to understand that what I say, I'm gonna do.
Yeah. And
then I'm not gonna speak hollow, and I'm gonna follow through as much as possible. That to me is credibility is everything. If you do lose that, you lose.
Yeah, I think as a subordinate, all I want my leader to do is to follow through. Like, I just need you to tell me you can do something, to actually do it, not just say it and then forget about it. Like, I need you to do it, because then I can't do my job effectively if I'm promising other people what you're going to do.
Exactly.
There's just a complete misbreak. There's this thing called the tomato theory. It's a leadership idea. Have you heard it?
No.
So like I'm not a farmer. My dad was. But when you're growing tomatoes, I guess you have to water them and take care of them for like 4 weeks till they'll actually grow, and another 8 weeks or something to be harvested. So it takes 8 weeks of watering tomatoes every day to harvest a tomato. Those numbers might be wrong. 8 weeks, we're just going to go with that.
Close
for today.
enough.
8 weeks of watering a tomato every day to harvest it. And all it takes is one day, one really cold night where you don't, well, I guess also 8 weeks of watering and 8 weeks of making sure they stay warm.
Yeah.
And all it takes is one day of not watering the tomato, or one day of letting a cold night hit the tomatoes unprotected, and the tomatoes are fucked and they're done and they're not going to grow. And that's like what leadership is. Tomato theory is when you one time lie to your people, where you tell them to trust you and then you break that trust, or you don't keep them warm. Like, it takes 8 weeks of doing good to get people's trust and respect. One time, just one moment of fucking that up, and you fuck the tomatoes up. They're ruined. They're not going to grow, and they'll never trust you again. And that makes perfect sense, because people don't want to remember all these little small, subtle good things you did. They just want to remember the one time you fucked up, because that's what's fun and easy to talk about and to not trust you. So it's so hard to be a trustable person.
I mean, that rolls right back into all of our career fields too.
Oh, yeah,
like, you can do everything right for years. You fuck up once. I mean, if you pay attention to Air Force times, and the cops have done it a couple different times recently. I mean, and that's all people remember. They don't remember the 37,000 other ones that are doing their job every day in and day in and day out and doing it really well. They remember, hey, y'all messed up here.
Yeah.
And then we make policy off of it and a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah.
But the same thing with leadership. Like, you can be phenomenal day in and day out. You're not true to your word one time. You're not true to yourself and to your people once. That's it. You're done. And that will spread faster than anything. Because the second that they know that you are not credible, that you, A, don't have their best interests at heart, B, you're self-serving, any of those, and that you lie, that's it.
Yep.
Why? I won't follow you.
Yeah.
I won't even lead people like that. Well, I will.
You have to.
Because I do. But at the same time, it's very difficult at that point, because your values to me are screwed. Like, I mean, and if I know that I can't trust you, then I don't want to have a relationship with you.
Yep.
And if I can't do any of those things, how am I going to stand shoulder to shoulder with you in front of the enemy and hope to God you're going to do what the hell you said you were?
Mm-hmm. But no, that makes sense. All right, let's move to this.
All right.
You've listed a lot of good leaders.
Yeah.
Your commander, Brian Copper, Chief Vale, Chief the Godfather.
Yeah.
I can't say his name.
De Janeiro.
Yeah. Remember the Godfather, though. A lot of good leaders, a lot of good mentors there. You can only pick one top best mentor. Who is it? What did they do so well?
So if I was going to pick one, out of all of them, it would probably be a guy. It would be Tim Pitt. So
you talked about him at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Chief, right?
Chief Pitt is, when it came down to it, he's a soft-spoken guy. Let me rephrase that. Not soft-spoken, but he's hard to get excited. Like, he's not excitable. But he relays everything from a position of just strength, because he's smart. He's very smart, but he also gives a shit about everybody that works for him. He's not afraid to call out people when he has to. and that goes all the way up. And I've watched him do it. And he stands behind his word. Everything he says is what he's going to do. And, yeah, I'd follow that guy all day. And he's probably, I mean, all those guys that you mentioned are pretty close to tying that, if not that. I mean, like DeGennaro, Vale, another guy named Josh Reese, Mike Alberson, and then I got a couple subordinates that work for me that I would follow them today.
We're gonna get to that. Don't talk about.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, but those, yeah. I mean, if you made me pick one, I mean, it's a tie between all of them. But Tim's the one that comes to mind right now.
Yeah, he was probably, I think, the first person you brought up, Chief.
Yeah.
Chief. Yeah. Tim, what's his last name?
Pitt.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal individual. Like I said, it's not do what I say, it's come with me, let's do this together.
Yeah. What it sounds like is just caring about people is what he did, right? And I asked all 14 of these people prior to you what they did right. And that's usually what a lot of them pick is like just caring about people.
Yeah.
But it's so much easier to say to do that than done. But it sounds like Tim did it correctly. So anyone who knows that guy, that's something to replicate, including yourself, right?
Yeah, my buddy Scotty, he used to tell me, he said, mission first, people always.
I've heard that, yeah.
And I was like, that makes a lot of damn sense. Yeah. And he goes, I stole that from somebody else.
Yep.
So
I know,
like,
heard
all
it.
right,
Well,
cool. So we all do that.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Chief Schoen, I mean, you knew that dude before. I didn't know you knew him, but everyone was like really excited about that dude.
So Andy, I've never, he and I've met each other in passing a couple times.
Okay.
But like I said, he's one of the giants in the cop world that you just hear about all the time. Like, hey, this guy's doing this guy's doing that. And like, there's a couple out there like that. Like, Gallagher's one of them out of Global Strike. Like, all these guys are doing amazing things. There's one that I had the privilege to work with. He's a lieutenant colonel now, Gilbert Weich. All of these people are doing amazing things, and we call them defender giants and stuff like that. Like, they're the people that are making the career field in the way that we're moving forward. And they're doing it fast.
Chief Schoen is a defender giant, huh?
Yeah.
I wish I would have known that before I talked to him.
I would put him in that category
That's
easily.
Awesome.
Yeah.
He seemed really cool. Like he was the first person that someone was like, you need to interview this guy. Go. And like, they brought Chief Schoen to me. It was like, this is John, this is Andy. You guys got to get together. He was the first person that happened to me. And it was pretty cool.
Kind of how he's not quiet spoken, but he's quiet, but he's powerful in the way he speaks. Yep. Pitt's the same way. Like,
okay.
That's kind of what I meant by that earlier. So if he ever listens to this, I'm not saying he's quiet spoken.
Well, anyone you send it to will probably listen to it. And I only have one question left.
Mm-hmm.
Before I get to it, if there's anything you're thinking of, we got about 20-something minutes.
Honestly, not. I mean,
all right, let's go to the question. We talked about who your best mentor is that you've met growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So now, it was Chief Tim
Pitt.
Yeah. I can't remember Pitt. Such a simple name. One of my best friends in high school was Pitt, so I should be able to remember that. Okay, we identified what he did, and that was just caring about people and showing it day in and day out.
Yeah.
And you said Chief Vale and all those other guys did that too. And so now what I think is a question I haven't asked anyone before on this podcast is someone that's like a regular NCO or an airman that you think has a great future ahead for the Air Force. Who is that person, and what is it that they do that's so unique?
Oh, man. Yeah, there's a couple that kind of jumped to mind. I mean, right off the bat, you got Tech Sergeant Air. He works for me now. He's just, I don't know what it is about him, but like, I pay attention when he talks. Like, he's got a gravitational leadership toward him. I mean, he listens to everybody, and it's active listening. It's not just him listening, waiting on what to say next. Like, he's listening to you, and he seems to give a damn about all his people. And that, to me, I think that guy has a strong head on his shoulders and going to go a long ways in the career field and in the Air Force in general. Another guy named Jared Miller. He's a master sergeant now. He was with me at Geeslin and then again in Kandahar. He's a guy that kept me sane for 10 months. Just phenomenal individual. Again, had those, I don't even, intangible qualities where he was talking and people would listen, but he knew how to approach everyone in the right way. Like, it wasn't people adapting to his leadership. It was him adapting to how he led people. Mm-hmm. I guess you could say. Billings, Kyle, he's one of them. If he decides to stick around, he'll be a chief. I mean, easily. And,
what does Billings do so special? Kyle.
He's direct. He's very direct, which I like. I appreciate a lot. But and I don't know if we've learned this from each other or what, he doesn't make decisions in a vacuum. He doesn't just sit back and say, well, this is the best way because I think it's the best way. He bounces it off a couple different people. He also, people come first with him, even though it doesn't, for some people that watch him lead, it might not seem that way, but that's exactly what he has in the forefront of his mind, is taking care of people as much as possible. But how does he balance? He balances that so well with getting the mission done and getting the mission done in a high functioning capacity. Like, I mean, that's amazing to me. He learned that long before I ever did.
Yeah.
And he's phenomenal at it. Chris Carriger, that guy is, he's going a long way. He's just insanely intelligent. God, man, I could go on and on for days. And Nick Rosales, Samantha Williams, Ryan Rowe, who's a first sergeant. Like, if I could have picked somebody to be a first sergeant, to be my first sergeant, I'd have picked that guy.
Yeah.
Outside of Mike Wyant, who's over in MXS now, like, that would be the other guy. Like, just phenomenal individual.
You listed off so many people, and I could do the same if I was asked, what do you like about a specific leader or mentor or subordinate? And I think, like, the key is to, like, figure out what someone does better than you, replicate it, compete with them, try to, like, do what they do really good.
Yeah.
Because you're going to lose. You already admire this person for being better than you at that characteristic. Just try to compete with them, and you're only going to get better.
I mean, it goes back to the how do you want to get faster at running? Do you run with somebody that runs the same speed as you, or somebody that's faster?
Yeah.
Like, if I could, I'd run with Usain Bolt every day. I'm never going to do anything that that guy does, not even close, but I'm going to get faster. Mm-hmm. I mean, never going to catch him, but I might get faster. Yeah. I'm going to improve. And, I mean, when it comes to building a team, it's a lot of the things that I look for, not necessarily my failings and where they could pick up and gap that, but where are they strong? Where are they? Because I don't want to hire, like, I don't want to pick all the same people for a team. Talking about a combat team, I don't want to pick nothing but breachers. I want a long gun in there. I want a heavy gunner. I want people that have different skill sets in that team, so they can all complement each other in one way or another. And I mean, that's kind of how you build a team. Is if you pick nothing but hammers, like, everything's a nail. Like, you have to pick some people that offset the others, that balance each other out.
Right. So, yeah, I agree. For the final, like, comment or question I have, is when I asked who your best mentor is, you picked Chief Pitts.
Yeah.
And when I said someone who's behind you, I said, why'd you like Chief Pitts? And it came down to peopling. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then I asked, who's someone that's a lower rank than you that's going far in their career? And you picked Tech Sergeant Ayers.
Yeah.
Air. What? How long has that guy been in? Do you know?
I think 11 years right now.
Okay, so young Tech Sergeant.
Yeah.
So you got Tech Sergeant Piers and Chief Pitts, and both of them, you said they're just really good at listening and peopling. Mm-hmm. Essentially, peopling is my word, but that's what you said.
Yeah.
So it sounds like what's really important going forward, past and present, is just being great with people. Yeah,
because I mean, people are our business. Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, and the mission's gonna be the mission. We're all gonna contribute. We're all gonna make it happen. It's too big to fail. Like, we can't let it fail. But people are our business.
So how do we get better at peopling?
Man, I think
Like, that's what we need to figure out to train and teach.
Yeah, if we had figured that out, there's a lot of problems that we wouldn't have.
I don't know, like teaching trust, teaching charisma, teaching character. Like, those is what I look at when I look at peopling.
And that character is one of the huge ones. Like, just, and I don't know how to exactly define character, but I always remember my father always said, that guy's got good character, or that girl's got good character. And that meant that they were just somebody that held true to what they said. Mm-hmm. And they were somebody that you could depend on and trust. And so that's a huge one to me. But I think, when we talk about people and how to be that leader or that friend, mentor, whatever we want to call it, that people can trust. Like, I mean, that's a big one to me, is if we can do that correctly, the rest of it's going to fall. The rest of it's going to come into place. Like, we're going to get there because we have to. I mean, simple. It's just my guys have to know how to patrol correctly and how to do this. I mean, maintainers got to know how to do certain things on a jet. But if we can get the people and grab them and make them feel included and part of it, and I'd be amazed at what we could accomplish.
Yeah. Do you think peopling is important for E3, an airman first class, or a senior airman? Is it important then?
Oh, wholeheartedly. I mean, because if you think about it, that's when I came in, there was 30 of us that hit that base together at the same time, and just who had your six? Like, who was watching your back? And it didn't have to be at work. It didn't have to be just you're out and about and somebody makes a stupid decision. Who's going to be there to pick you up and continue to move and get you the hell out of that bad situation, or vice versa? Yeah. Or, so I think that's very important then at that time with those people, because that's huge. If you don't do it, I think that's where you learn it too. Hopefully, I mean, to a point. But.
Yeah, I feel like when I was that young, I was learning who I could trust, who would help me out, and who was in it for themselves. And I just cut those people out for themselves and focused on those other dudes.
Yeah.
And now,
I made some mistakes. I trusted the wrong people at some points. And, but I mean, it taught me some valuable lessons, but I trusted the wrong ones at certain times, but it worked out at the end.
Yeah, I've grown and I've learned. It's what I love about this podcast is whenever I'm rushing to like end it because my recording time is almost up, I'm like thinking of all these like really profound things to say. And I've learned, like, now that I'm in this position where I'm the top guy in my facility, it's only 25 people. It's not 180.
Still.
But everything I say and do, like, I remembered when I was a little airman, if the senior master sergeant, Jack Henry, who was the chief controller, the job I get to hold right now, whenever he would, like, talk to me, like, hey, I saw you did really well in position today separating aircraft. Man, just keep that up. I'm telling you, you're going to go far. He took 10 seconds to say that to me and walked away. And I remember it, 12 years later, I remember that. And so now that I'm in this position and I realize every like compliment or these moments I give these people, they're going to remember forever. It's like really empowering and cool to know like how much I can make people better just by like putting a little time into telling them, hey, that's what you're doing right, and walking away.
I got one for you.
Yep.
And this is, and what you said just made me think of it. Guy named Chief Master Sergeant Bobby Rush.
Is he the Security Forces?
Yep.
Okay.
And he retired in 2008.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
I joined in 08.
And so I was a staff sergeant working in QC at the time. And he walked into the office one day and he looked at me and he said, hey, Goose, you busy? And he's like, no, Chief. And it's a chief asking you if you're busy. Yeah. Whatever the hell you had, ain't that important. Get up. So I grabbed my ID, and he goes, just whenever you're free, come to my office. I was like, okay. So I walked to his office right away. And, hey, Chief, what's going on? Sit down. Sit down. Kind of odd. Like, I mean, hadn't happened. I'd been on the other side of that table, but it was for other things. And it wasn't with him. But so I'm sitting there, and I was like, yeah, Chief, what's going on? And he looked at me, and he said, one of the other questions that I've gotten from Gonzalez before, where do you see yourself? Where do you want to go in this career? And I remember I answered him that day, and I said, I want to be where you're at one day. I want to be in that position. He goes, okay, let me show you how. And I was like, what? Yeah. He goes, there's no exclusive roadmap or anything, but let me tell you a few things you need to do. And he goes, I know you can get there. You can do this. And I was like, huh? Like, I mean, it's 6-7 years in my career, and I had somebody tell me that I could do this, that I could be that. Yeah, like I can be him, or I could be in that position. And I was like, that made a massive impact on me. Like, just over the years, I've never forgot that. And it's amazing. It took me 2.5 hours to remember that, but
it's not amazing. It takes.
He's a guy. If you ever ran across him, he's got a Boston accent from hell. Like,
is that where he's at now?
So he was down at Fort Walton Beach too, with right next to De Janeiro, but I think he just moved back up to the Northeast. His wife was a mess sergeant. She retired. She was the ALS commandant.
Oh, nice.
And then he was the cop chief, and he did 30 years. God, I think he did 2 or 3 365s in the desert. Yeah.
How many have you done? I know you're about to do one.
So this will be 2.
Okay.
Yeah. But he was, again, one of those giants in the career field. He used to walk around. So Joey Anderson, a buddy of mine that works in the squadron, he apparently met Rush downrange one time when Rush was the AFCENT, like one of the AFCENT top cops or something like that. He came around, he met Joey, and he's like, how you doing, this and that. And he asked him for his mother's name, his mother's address. Mm-hmm. And Joey gave it to him. And I always remember hearing Rush tell me he did this stuff, but I never heard of it actually happening until 12 years later. I'm here, and I met Joey, and he and I are talking about it. I was like, yeah, Bobby. And he's like, oh, yeah, he wrote my mother a letter from the desert telling her how awesome her son is and, the great stuff he's doing and this and that, and took the time to handwrite it and mail it. I was like, as a chief. And for somebody that's not even in his unit, he's like, hey, that defender's doing an awesome job. Let me, it's the little things like that people never forget. And Joey, 12 years later, as soon as I said the name, he goes, hey, and he tells me about it. And I was like, holy shit, I heard about him doing that. But I never actually heard of anybody telling me he did it. And, now I've heard a couple different stories from different people about it.
Yeah, that's what I think is so cool about when you get to that position, chief, higher than that. You can take 20 minutes and literally make someone remember this positive impact you had for the rest of your life. Yeah. And I bet finding those 20 minutes becomes hard at that point, or to just keep repeating it. But it has that impact. It's just you have to sit down and do it. So, like you were talking about putting a franchise tag on somebody. Yeah, that would mean a lot. Like, hey, that was Chief Rush's. That was the Godfather's franchise tag, 2012.
That was the way that they grabbed people. And like De Janeiro, the way that I remember him sitting down and saying, hey, man, he goes, you have everything that you need. You're in the right spot. He goes, I've watched you. You can do certain things. And just those small, like that was kind of putting a tag on somebody, like you were talking about. And I sit all my guys down, and I'm like, hey, man, this is where you're at. And I said, you're doing phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I just need you to do this, and you're right there. And or shit, man, there ain't nothing. Like you're on it. It'll happen when it's supposed to happen. Yeah. And that's the hard part when people get passed over for promotion sometimes, and there ain't much more to do. That's a hard thing to explain to them. Like, hey, just keep grinding. It's gonna happen. But luck and timing have something to play with that too. Yeah. But, man. Shit, man.
No, this has all been really good. I feel like whenever I get another promotion, I have to re-listen to these 3 hours. Like, all right, what did I say I was gonna do when Senior Goose said to do these things? Because I agreed with it in the moment. It'll be good. It'll be on YouTube for the eternity until YouTube kicks me off or some dumb shit. But man, I took notes, and here's what I need to stop doing. I try to quick write my notes, and I'm like, that don't make sense when I read it later. And I wrote CJ Chief Rush. But I don't remember why I wrote that. But it was something important in the moment. But that's, man, I hit all those questions I wanted to ask you. 3 hours of good shit. I think this recorder's got about 10 to 12 minutes left. So I really am thankful for you finding the time to come here, for drinking beers with me, talking to me. But we still, like I said, got about 12 minutes. So anything you got left, I want to hear it.
I thank you, first off, for having me on this thing. Like I said, I told you when you asked, I started researching it, and I was like, holy crap, there's some significant people that have been on this.
I think it was really cool. You were like, oh, I know Chief
Show. I mean, there's just some people that are on this thing that I'm like, why the hell did you ask me? And I was like, so I talked to my girl about it too. I was like, hey, Steph, like John asked me to be on this podcast, and I said, I was like, I don't know what I have to offer. Like, I mean, because some of the other people on this thing are just giants. Like they're people I hear about, and I look like just hear about, and I want to know what they're doing that's making them successful and keeping them that way.
Yeah.
And she just looked at me, and she's just like, I don't know either.
Good luck.
No, that's not what she said, but either way. But first off, thank you, because this is an amazing opportunity. Because, like you said, YouTube's going to have this on there forever, and then God knows, maybe someday somebody somewhere will hear this and go, "Holy shit, that makes sense."
Yeah.
But maybe not. Who knows? But
maybe it's all bullshit. But regardless, then just don't listen to it or ignore it. Yeah.
That reminded me of a joke, but never mind. Either way, thank you for this. And thanks for the ALA stuff, man. Wholeheartedly, that is an amazing program. That's gonna be phenomenal, and that should continue throughout the Air Force. Outside of that, to everybody, and the only thing I'd say is credibility is amazing, and you have to have it. You have to follow through with what you say, and you have to make sure that you can damage a relationship, like we said, in a millisecond. That takes sometimes weeks, months, years to cultivate and grow. So just be careful with what you do. But don't be timid. Be bold with your decisions and with your opportunities that are presented in front of you. Accelerate, change, or lose. This is something that it's not just a mantra anymore. Like, this is something that as cops we're embodying, and we're moving fast because we have to. Mm-hmm. And then, so that's why I say keep credibility, but don't be timid. Be bold with your decisions. Be bold with the opportunities that are presented in front of you, and move quickly because other people are. And we got to make sure we keep pace.
Yeah.
But other than that, shit, man, this has been a blast.
Cool. I'm glad you had fun. Well, I'm implying you had fun, so let me start with that.
Yes.
Since we're at the end here. Did you have fun talking?
Yeah, hell yeah. That was a good time.
Do you agree that, like, I think when you're at ALA talking about leadership and ideas that you do a great job? Do you believe me when I'm telling you that?
I believe you.
And now when I get the student feedbacks and they also just get excited about you rambling, like, does that mean something to you?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So you're doing a lot of things right. You being a senior, just being open and honest with people that are subordinates to you means a lot. And I hope more seniors and chiefs can do that, because I don't think a lot do. So that's what me, a guy 10 years behind you, thinks. And I hope you continue to do that. I know it's easier said for me to just tell you. But yeah, like, you're doing something different. I see it. Master Sergeant Erica sees it. Scott sees it. And all these 16 NCOs in the class just get excited. I see it not only in their feedbacks, but when they're looking at you and talking, like, or while you're talking. So you're doing a lot of shit right there. And I hope you continue to do that. And, that's all I got. I'm glad you did have fun talking. I don't know. I think you provided a lot of interest in here, and it was just fun to do. So
yeah, this was fun, actually, man.
It was a win-win. Tell you what, before you leave here in April, we should do it again.
Oh, dude, I'm in.
All right.
I'm definitely in.
And then also, Kyle Billings, you said, well, he's leaving in April too. Maybe we could get him in on the next class.
He doesn't have a choice.
Well, okay. Yeah, let's see how many openings we got. I want to keep you and Erica.
Either way, I'm going to just bring him a couple times just to watch.
I think he'd be good. Yeah, I almost want to keep Scott too. I want to like cycle the leaders up, and eventually I'm going to give this program up to probably to Erica if she's still here. Yeah, I think this program could be good. I think we've identified ways to improve it, getting the students to interact. ALA is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I just hit my 13-year mark, and that's all I care about is making people better or myself better. That's what really gets me going and excited. And it's cool that whenever I'm just open about this is what I like, so many other people that are higher ranking than me or below me or equal to me are like, hey, I give a shit about that too. I want to do it. And it's just, that's what's fun to me. And I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So, man, thank you for coming. Me and him are going to hang out and probably talk a little bit longer after this, but the recording's almost done. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your girlfriend letting you leave for 4 hours to hang out with me on a Sunday. He missed the Falcons game. Do you want me to tell you the result? I looked it up during the break.
43-3.
Yeah. So your team won. Yeah. So you're getting somewhere.
Gotta make up for that loss last week.
Cool. Well, I will. I'm done talking. You're the first person I'm giving have a Tisue koozie to. I need a good thumbnail. Here, pick which side you want to hold, and I'll hold the opposite. There you go. Look at the camera there, so I can get a good thumbnail. I count to like 3 because I like to make sure I don't blink and I look decently handsome. 2, 3. All right, one of us look good, but I'm gonna pick the one I look good. So that's it. You got about 4 minutes. If you have anything,
no man,
say it, and I'll end it.
No, that's it. That's it, man.
Cool.
This has been a blast.
Thanks, Goose. We'll do it again in April.
I felt great getting to talk to someone again, and this 3 hours went by way too fast. Goose leaves Fairchild in April, but I'm optimistic we'll have more stories to share, and maybe he has some time to come over and do one more conversation with me before he goes. I appreciate all of those who have reached out to me, and those who have asked me when I'll start making more podcasts, and those who have shared it with other listeners. Thanks for listening. Have a Tisue podcast is finally back after a 4-month break. This podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, and Anchor.